Should our cameras be on or not?
Our cameras should be off and our mic should also be off until the Q&A session. They did ask us to switch it off already because they've been recording for the last half an hour.
Cozy. Oh, okay. No, thank you very much.
Yeah, this is yeah. Ona, Komis T. Forbid the ask.
All fine then. Mute me. How can I help you guys again then? Alright, bitches. Yeah. Wait.
Guys, please, artimen the camera, please. Artimen the camera.
Cameras must be switched off, guys. Cameras must be off.
They're going to call you by name, and it's not going to be right.
Please,
They're going to call you by name and take.
Zinhle, switch off your camera, please. Rose. Tiniko, switch off your camera. Tiniko. Tiniko.
She seems not to know how. Tiniko. Look at the camera. Where you see a video, click there. You are raising a hand instead of switching off. Look where you see the video next to the mic and click there. Good.
Guys, they say you should switch off your cameras. Switch off your cameras, please. SM.
Good morning, everyone. Can we please mute our mics and switch off our cameras?
Thank you. Taking violence. The latest attacks come with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed seemingly trapped outside the country.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning to all. I would like to extend a sincere welcome to all our guests who gladly accepted our invitation and are present to celebrate our Teaching Practice Orientation Day. My name is Larato Mahanyele. I am the coordinator at Teaching Practice. I'm a workstation coordinator for Western Cape, Northern Cape, SADC, and international countries. Just a few house rules. Can we please mute our mics when we are not presenting and switch off our cameras? Can everyone do that, please? I'll allow just 1 minute for everyone to mute their mics and their cameras. Thank you very much. With that said, can we also please mute our Prof. Taule, the floor is yours.
Ms. Mahanyele, you should take others out because now we are seeing people in compromising positions. Those that don't switch off their videos. Just remove them from the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. I will do that.
Thank you, Mrs. Mahanyela, our program director. Thank you.
I will not.
Presenter, you are muted.
Thank you, Program Director, Mrs. Mahanyela.
Yes,
on behalf of happening, my mic it's switched off. I don't know by who. Am I protected, Ms. Mahanyela?
You are protected. We can hear you, Prof.
Yeah, I'm saying while I'm speaking, somebody switched off my mic. I'm not sure if Ms. Mahanyela ensure that we are protected when we're speaking. Can I proceed, Ms. Mahanyela?
You can proceed, Prof. You are protected. Go ahead.
Okay. I was saying on behalf of the College of Education and Teaching Practice Office, it is my great pleasure to extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you joining us for this teaching practice session. I also want to extend a special welcome to our guest from SAIS, Ms. Chilwani, and the TP staff members, and also the TP module coordinators. Whether you are embarking on your first experience in the classroom or you are continuing your journey towards becoming an inspiring teacher, we are excited to have you here. Teaching is not just a profession, it's a calling. It is about shaping the minds, nurturing curiosity, and igniting a passion for lifelong learning. As you prepare to step into the classrooms and make a difference in the lives of our learners, remember that you hold the power to inspire, to motivate, and empower young minds. During this orientation session, we will equip you with necessary knowledge and the skills that you need in your teaching practice. We'll also show you how to navigate the placement tool. I know it's a challenge for most of you. And also we have teaching practice module coordinators who are here, who will answer every question that you have. I believe by the end of this session, you will have answers to your question. But beyond the practical skills and the knowledge that you gain, sorry about that. But beyond the practical skills and the knowledge that you gain during this session, remember the importance of empathy, patience, and resilience. Teaching is a journey which is filled with both triumphs and challenges. And it is how we navigate these experiences that truly define us as aspiring teachers. So as you embark on this journey, embrace every opportunity to learn, to grow, and make a positive impact. So welcome again to this teaching practice orientation session. Let's embark on this journey together, united in our mission to inspire, to educate, and empower the next generation. Thank you so much. Over to you, Ms. Mahanyela.
Thank you, Professor Thale, for the welcome. Thank you so much. I'm now going to introduce our guest speaker. I'll give you a brief profile about her. Her name is Mrs. Chilwani. She's an experienced education professional with over a decade of invaluable experience in the education sector. She has 8 years of management experience, 6 at national level in curriculum development, in structural design, education, and capacity development environments. Her leadership and management experience includes student leadership quality, assurance, and professional development. Mrs. Chilwani has worked for Umalusi, the Quality Council for General and Further Education and Training. She is currently the manager of teacher professionalism at the South African Council for Educators. She is a diligent education strategist who is task-focused, action-orientated, and an activist for result-based management. She has a passion for improving and empowering development communities. Mrs. Chilwani holds an educational honors degree specializing in curriculum, in structural design, and development from the University of Pretoria. She also has a Master's of Business Administration from Regent Business School. In addition to her academic qualifications, Mrs. Chilwani has several professional and academic memberships, including the prestigious Golden Key International Honor Society. With that said, I would like to welcome Mrs. Chilwani to the floor. Mrs. Chilwani, are you here? Mrs. Chilwani, are you here? Can you hear us?
Okay, there we go. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you audible. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for a beautiful introduction. Good morning, UNISA executive, management, support staff, as well as our most important, our students. It's such a pleasure to be with you. My presentation that I've developed is short, sweet, it's to the point, and I'm hoping it's going to inspire you. I think it's important that I share from the appreciation of our Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Ella Mokhalani, as well as her executive management team, particularly the office in which I serve, that is Ms. Yvonne Lechava, Head of Registration and Teacher Professionalization. They'd really like to extend an opportunity, the appreciation for UNISA to invite us to this inaugural event. I think it's important that within the presentation that I'm going to share, we are mindful that interpretation is based on experience. And I think with that said, we've always got to be open to what experience will look like. I'm just uploading the presentation. Please let me know if you can see it. Can you see it?
Yes,
Okay.
we can see the presentation.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So welcome to the South African Council for Educators. I think this is going to be your professional home, the home where you feel that you are at ease, the home where you feel that you belong, and most importantly, the home that you feel will look after you. I think it's important that we consider what you bring as well as what we will be able to bring to you. I think what's also important is that we recognize the fact that UNISA is not only within the national ambers, being within the South African quarters, but it is within the SADC region, continentally and internationally. It is a celebrated qualification. Being a member of the UNISA alumni is something that I hope when you get to it, you'll be excited and you look forward to what it brings as you move across your teaching experience, particularly as a student, and once you graduate, as you move as an academic or a promising academic across the sector. I think what's also important is we've just come off the International Teacher Task, UNESCO Teacher Task Force Policy Dialogue Forum. And one of the things that we posed, the themes that we were discussing was what does the future of education look like, specifically teaching profession? And I think there's some good insights. The website is available. I'll drop it in the meeting in the chat box so that if you have time, you can go and see what's happening internationally, and you can start considering how do you internalize it so that you are fit for purpose, but more specifically, you are able to advocate for the profession. So from the South African Council for Educators, we have a vision that states inspiring a credible teaching profession, and our mission is to register fit to practice educators and lecturers, promote their continuing professional development, and maintain the profession's professional teaching and ethical standards. We have 9 values, and these values are profound in the sense that they cater to you at different aspects of your academic career, and as you move into your teaching practice within the work integrated learning perspective, but more specifically as you find your teacher's voice. And I say it's a voice that develops over time as you come into context with the content, the theory aspect, and as you start building yourself in the practice aspect. My apologies, Chairperson, there is feedback coming back. If you can please ask the members to mute, or if you could mute them, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So our values are dignity, integrity, respect, accountability, responsibility, tolerance, transparency, service-orientated, and quality. And I think what is profound for me is the fact that as one navigates your
Ms. Chiloane, I think you are muted because I cannot hear you.
Thank you so much. Someone did mute me. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Can you hear me now?
I think it's the students.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you so much for that. Okay, so I'll start.
I think the students are muting the speakers.
Mrs. Chani, just give me a second. Let me try to mute everyone. Just give me 1 second. I'll bring you back. Mrs. Chilwane, you can go ahead. Can you hear me?
I can.
I tried to mute all of the students. Let's see how it goes. Let's try again. Thank you. Apologies for the inconvenience.
Not a problem. What I think, yes, yeah. What I think is happening is that when someone presses automatic mute, it mutes me as well. If we can just be mindful, please. I really appreciate the fact that we're trying to get everybody to participate. Let me. Am I audible now? Can you hear me? Okay, I'm unmuted.
Yes, Ms.
All right.
I think what you should do is you should set the meeting so that only admin has the right to mute and unmute. I think that's what you have to do on your side.
Okay, thank you so much. If the UNISA team can please do that, I'll really appreciate it. Okay, let me start with this particular slide again. As indicated, the South African Council for Educators Act number 31 of 2000 as amended mandates council to provide for the registration of educators, promote the professional development of educators, and to set, maintain, and protect ethical and professional standards. Now, effectively, SACE has various aspects that we respond to, but I think this is conclusive, and one can possibly look at other alternative items that we'd like to add here, but these are profound aspects of the South African Council for Educators, as well as the programs that we do have. So we have the values of the profession, and that's what I've just taken you briefly through. Then we have SACE provisional legislation. This is for student educators specifically. And then we have SACE legislation, or how is colloquially termed as full registration. This means that you meet the professional requirements to be registered with the council. We have what we refer to as a continuing professional teacher development handbook, and that defines the aspect of continuing professional teacher development in the sense of short courses or activities or programs or workshops, a multitude of matters that you might come into contact with along your journey as a professional. We have the professional teaching standards, and I will touch base on that. We have the Code of Professional Ethics, and these two, the professional teaching standards and the Code of Professional Ethics, assist you in clarifying your roles and responsibilities, but more specifically from a professional perspective, what you intend to achieve. Then we have the Teacher Safety and Security in South African Schools, a handbook, and I think this resource is very important, especially if you're a student educator and you're navigating your experience within a South African school per se, because it is a contextually set handbook. Getting to work integrated learning. So I had the pleasures and the opportunity to represent the South African Council for Educators at the UNISA student indaba on work integrated learning, which was fascinating. And one of the slides that I had prepared was with regards to how the CHE defines work integrated learning as a good practice guide. I had a discussion with one of your prominent professionals, Prof. Tahule, and we spoke about where would we place teaching practice or work integrated learning within the continuum or of what is defined within the South African scope of work integrated learning. And you would hear of some simulated learning, problem-based learning, project-based learning, work-directed theoretical learning, and work-based learning. We reached a consensus that teaching practice or work-integrated learning has various aspects of these 5 pillars, and it is of vital importance that we consider our value system when we interact with these various pillars. You would also find that dependent on what subject you teach, you may move across the various pillars. But what is of most important is that as you reflect on your work integrated learning, you are able to detail your undertaking so that you are building your own understanding or what was understood as the praxis that defines who you are as a professional in the making. Now, our professional teaching standards support teachers to promote a common set of knowledge, skills, and commitments, strengthen our professional identity and enhance our status, create a common language and a vision, fulfill our professional roles and responsibilities, facilitate evaluation and reflection, and deepen and broaden our professional knowledge, skill, and understanding. Effectively, what the standards do is they give you a voice, and it assists you in when you are trying to explain why you have done a particular thing in a particular way. It's within the professional aptitude that you would be developing whilst you are doing your work integrated learning, as well as your theoretical learning that takes place. Now, professional teaching standards have 2 particular strands. The first strand covers standards 1 to 4, and the second strand covers standards 6 to 10. Now, our first strand acknowledges the important role teachers play in nation building, in the professional work. Teachers build communities at different levels. We build classroom communities. We contribute to nurturing school communities, and I'm hoping you'll be and able to participate in these communities as you do your teaching practice. In the subjects we teach, we introduce learners to knowledge communities. And I want to believe that you are going to be ambassadors for the knowledge that you'll be bringing to the learners of our country or internationally, dependent on where you are, do your practice. Through the professional engagement and the collaboration, teachers build subject communities, school-based communities of practice. And when our professional learning is evidence-based, we build professional learning communities. When we undertake postgraduate studies, we build research communities, and we contribute to the production of effective teaching and learning within the South African context. Above all, quality teaching and effective learning empowers local communities. Within our second strand, this is how we've defined teachers enable learning, and it acknowledges that teachers need to manage both knowledge and learners in their lessons. Learners' success and achievement comes as a result of the way teachers can use their own understanding of knowledge and make it understandable for all learners. This strand emphasizes the importance of thoughtful lesson planning, skillful lesson delivery, and meaningful assessments in creating learning-centered experiences in which all learners can participate, progress, and develop. Our 10 professional teaching standards. So we have a booklet which I will share with the coordinator of the session so that you have these resources. This is just the broad statements of the 10 professional teaching standards. And as you work through the actual booklet, you will be able to see how the standard is then broken down, and it starts addressing actual aspects of what we engage in. Now, teaching is based on an ethical commitment on the learning and well-being of all learners. We've referred to this as ethical commitment, and it unpacks what we mean by ethical commitment. It brings in the code of professional ethics as well, and it starts defining aspects of values-based support. We speak about the teacher's voice and the coaching voice that we use and how we navigate the 2 environments using that voice. Then our second standard is what we refer to as professional development. It states teachers collaborate with others to support teaching, learning, and the professional development. And this one looks particularly into support of pre-service. In this case, it would be yourself, induction, teachers that are new to the schools, teachers that have joined the profession. It also speaks about the endorsed programs of continuing professional teacher development, and it details how you need to navigate the development of your professional learning communities as you navigate the environment and the context which you find yourself in. Standard number 3 is what we refer to as social justice, where teachers support social justice and the redress of inequalities within the educational institutions and society more broadly. This particular standard looks at the policies and how one needs to be mindful of what we define in policies and how we need to be particularly careful of protecting what may be marginalized learners, and in some cases when we talk about the professionals, marginalized professionals. Professional teaching standard number 4 is what we refer to as classroom management, and this particular one I'm going to go more into detail with at a later stage in this presentation, where teaching requires that well-managed and safe learning environments are created and maintained within reason. So that standard I will unpack for us. Standard number 5 is what we refer to as knowledge management, and it is teaching is fundamentally connected to teachers' understanding of the subject or subjects that they teach. This particular standard takes into consideration the various the strategies of knowledge development, the fact that you are building information across the subject that you are teaching, but more specifically, you are creating a sense of excitement and curiosity towards the knowledge that you'll be sharing with the learners. Number 6 is what we refer to as professional judgment. Teachers make thoughtful choices about their teaching that leads to learning goals for all learners. And this one we would refer to within the inclusivity aspect of possibly even the diversity aspect of what we need to do when we recognize that a learner may have a certain backlog or maybe advance and need an individual education program to support their advanced learning abilities. It also looks at the aspects of how one navigates the special needs and the inclusivity matters that may not be clearly defined within the write-up, but you would need the professional acumen to be able to recognize that you need to move backwards within the curriculum or within the strategy that you are implementing this particular concept, and then you may have to use a different teaching strategy of navigating the classroom environment to support the particular learner or learners in grasping the content that you are presenting. Number 7 is what we refer to as language acquisition, and it states teachers understand that language plays an important role in teaching and learning. And we've got a very youthful activity that we do normally here, and we try and explain the importance of recognizing the need of numeracy and literacy at foundational level, and how learners need to be able to grasp the foundational numeracy and literacy skills so that they are able to navigate within the curriculum across the phases that they would experience within their schooling career, particularly basic education. Then number 8, teachers are able to plan coherent sequences of learning experiences. This is where we take up the CAPS curricula and we present it as if to understand within the continuum of the curriculum, you would have within the phase knowledge that you are building up across the phase, across the terms, across the weeks, across the days. And this is how you would then start navigating to make sure that from your baseline assessments, you are able to establish whether the content that you intend to present is fit for purpose and the learners will be able to grasp it. Number 9 is teaching strategies. Teachers understand how teaching methodologies. Teachers understand how their teaching methodologies are effectively applied. I think this is my ultimate favorite standard. And I say that personally because it's where the magic really happens. When you get into a classroom as a student teacher, you have the proximity of a professional educator that says registered to be in the presence where you start navigating who you are within the classroom. I think what's also fascinating about the standard is it says that you are the best placed professional to be able to present the content in a way that is better understood by who you'll be presenting it to. I also like the fact that you are able to navigate between what is known and what is unknown, or in the academic terminology would be from
Mrs. Chilwani, you're no longer audible. Are you still here with us?
My apologies, I was muted. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Can continue.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The presentation is gone.
Okay, my apologies. Let me share it again. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see the presentation. Okay. Can continue. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. I just want to finish up on our previous slide. And then we have professional teaching standard number 10, which we refer to as monitoring and evaluation. And this particular standard states that teaching involves monitoring and assessing learning, and it takes into consideration the reporting back to your stakeholders in the form of within the classroom system. As a student teacher, that would be your mentor teacher. The mentor teacher would report to the departmental head, who would report to the HOD. The HOD would report to the principal. You would also be giving feedback to your learners. You'd be giving feedback to your parent body. And effectively, this is how you find expression within ensuring the fact that you are able to communicate evidence-based feedback to your stakeholders. Now, what we felt was important, particularly for this presentation, was to define the heart of professionalism. And this is done by a fellow academic, Jane Hofmeyr, and she went into aspects of what professionalism is. Specifically, professionalism is about accountability and improving teaching quality. It's about accountability of values which influence powerful and professional accountability. And under professionalism, it values an essential component of professional culture and commitment. So our professional teaching standards are an important tool through which values, professionalism, and accountability can be defined and upheld. So when you move within your framing of your work integrated learning report that you'll be doing, or your effective work that you'll be doing, consider aspects of professionalism, accountability, values-based education, and how you intend to ensure that you are able to address your reflexive work, but more specifically, looking at aspects of your professional teaching standards as you define what you did when a particular incident may have happened or experience may have happened. We felt it's also important that we define within the policy document of Mr. Tech, which is the minimum requirements for teacher education qualifications, which refers to work integrated learning. Now, this is the policy for South Africa that looks after the teaching qualifications. This is school-based teachers, particularly when we look at our initial professional teacher education qualification, or initial teacher education as fondly known. This is both for the postgraduate certificate in education as well as our Bachelor of Education. Now, within the work integrated learning, if you are doing a Bachelor of Education, you would have a minimum of 20 weeks and a maximum of 32 weeks, whereas if you are doing a postgraduate certificate in education, you would have a minimum of 8 weeks and a maximum of 12 weeks. This is to navigate your experience, your work integrated learning with regards to approach, with you growing within your understanding of what you intend to achieve. What's also important, particularly with regards to our work integrated learning as defined in Mr. Tech for student learning, is the academic benefits, such as improved general academic performance, enhancement of interdisciplinary thinking, increased motivation to learn, personal benefits such as increased communication skills, teamwork, leadership, and cooperation, career benefits, for example, career clarification, professional identity, increased employment opportunities, salaries, development of positive work values and ethics, and skills development, including increased competence, increased technical knowledge per se. I think what's also important, knowledge and skills. So what's also important with this particular aspect is that as you navigate your work integrated learning, you are going to be motivated, and your motivation is going to stem from both intrinsic, how you are defined, and extrinsic, the feedback that you get. It's important that as you get the feedback, you view it within the lens of constructive feedback, such that even when the feedback is positive, you hear the things that you need to work on. Always be reflexive in the information you receive so that you are able to stay humble, if I may use that term, but also build a strong theoretical and practical experience that you'll be able to explain when you are interviewed post your qualification for a position. You'll be able to say, within my initial teacher education program, whether it be a B.Ed or PGCE, I was able to make sense of the following, and you are able to use your standards, you are able to use the terminology that you've grasped during your program, but you're also able to advocate for aspects of what are the things that you need to consider, what are the things that you'd like to work on. And effectively, that shows that you're a well-rounded professional in the making. And I say in the making because once you are qualified, you then seek employment unless you take an academic route. And in that employment aspect, that's when you will really start building your insight for what you want to achieve within the profession. So we have this professional legislation value chain, and I felt particularly for clarity why this was important is so that you can see that we are looking at fit to teach or practice status and good My apologies, I was muted. SACE is the first port of entry into the teaching profession through professional registration. We have the SAQA or Quality Councils aspects where they evaluate foreign qualifications and the verification of national qualifications. We have the South African Police Services where they offer the National Police Clearance Certificate. And it's important, should you have a conviction, that you seek clarity on the expungement process so that you can apply for expungement and then seek registration with council should that be part of your ideals within the profession. We have the Department of Higher Education and Training, which is a qualification evaluation system for employment in public schools. The Department of Higher Education and Training gazette the list of skills for critical skills for the country with the Department of Home Affairs, as well as the work permit matters in that regard. We have the screening against the National Register for sex offenders, as well as the screening against the National Child Protection Register. I think it's of vital importance that when you have an opportunity, you interact with the Children's Act. Albeit going through amendments, it is still a legislative script which is binding, and it's important that you are able to navigate the aspects of the child, the protective aspects that we need to consider, especially around the vulnerabilities of a child in that perspective. Enter the teacher professionalization path. So this path is underpinned by the professional teaching standards and values, and it looks at the career of a student who would have to be enrolled in a program that is registered and accredited. So from the South African Council for Educators perspective, we do the minimum requirements for enrollment into initial teacher education. We do the professional teaching standards, and this is for initial teacher education programs, as well as the joint CHE accreditation by virtue of the signed MOA that CHE and SACE partook in. Then we have our final year B.Ed PGCE students that will have provisional registration with SACE as newly qualified teachers. You would then become a newly qualified teachers and participate in 12 months mandatory induction program. You will submit an electronic newly qualified teachers professional development portfolio addressing the professional teaching standards. This will be reviewed against the professional teaching standards, and then a certified teacher professional designation will be awarded, as well as full SACE registration status. And then you will participate in the continued professional teacher development 3-year cycle addressing professional teaching standards. As part of being in
Mrs. Chilwani, you are muted again.
Thank you so much. My apologies. I felt that it was important that you are able to navigate within your teaching practice or work integrated learning and start identifying whether you're an accommodator, a diverger, as an assimilator, or a converger. This is really for you to take time and to reflect on. As an accommodator, they would get involved with lots of new activities, seek new experiences. They possibly can be impulsive and likes learning with people through projects, discussions, and doing. A diverger, on the other end, sees many alternatives in the whole picture, uses imagination, can model behavior, learns by listening, the sharing ideas with small number of people or by modeling. My apologies for that spelling error. Assimilator is a good theory builder, is a good synthesizer, redesigns, retests, digests, learns individually, thinking through ideas and designs a plan or model in an organized way. And then a converger applies ideas of solving problems, makes theories useful, likes to be in control of a situation, and learns working at probabilities and testing them, coming to conclusions. You may find that you will be fluid in your learning style, where you may start as an accommodator but soon become an assimilator and then realize, no, actually I need to be a diverger or converger. These are important aspects within the work integrated learning particular space, because you will be able to navigate, I'm being a bit impulsive here. This is what they meant theoretically when they spoke about pragmatism. And you'll be able to build your professional knowledge as well as your language as a professional within that aspect. And then food for thought. So work integrated learning from SACE and the sector, we look at orientation and onboarding and values in the profession. From the mentorship perspective, we're looking at SACE endorsed programs, particularly around mentorship, and then the science of tutelage. This is my newfound appreciation for the profession, which looks at how we actually interact with work integrated learning as the professionals that are receiving the students, and how we navigate the nuances that come with regards to that relationship that is built. And we tend to believe that the relationship should be built on trust, that you're there to learn as much as you're there to share, and there will be a sense of clarity with regards to your role and the role of the mentor or the mentors that you may be exposed to. Okay. Earlier, I presented the 10 professional teaching standards, and that was ethical commitment, professional development, social justice, classroom management, knowledge management, professional judgment, coherent language acquisition, coherent sequencing of lessons, teaching methodologies, and monitoring and evaluation. And I said to you, I'm going to come back to the classroom management one. This is our professional teaching standard number 4, which states teaching requires that well-managed and safe learning environments are created and maintained within reason. You'll be placed within a vast variety of schools within the various quintiles, and you need to be mindful of the environment that you're in. Effectively, the standard states that teachers are in class and teaching during scheduled teaching time. Teachers establish class routines to make the most of the available teaching and learning time, and teachers use fair and consistently applied rules to promote respectful behavior in their working environments. As you prepare for your work integrated learning or your teaching practice, you may have an idea of the classroom rules that you would like to implement. With the understanding that you'll be placed with a mentor teacher, I would like to strongly recommend that you ask for the classroom rules, if they are, or the school rules, and you make sense of what they are. You are then able to establish whether they are values-based, and if they aren't values-based, start a conversation about values-based education with regards to classroom practice, particularly classroom rules, so that you have clarity as to why the rules have been set the way they've been set. It's also an opportunity for you to find your voice with regards to how you'll be navigating the classroom, but particularly how you'll be navigating the environment that you are placed in. Because remember, the school is an ecosystem of the education system, and effectively what happens outside will come in and what happens inside will go out. And you need to be mindful of your values statements that build and define you, but more specifically, the tolerance and flexibility within the implementation of the tolerance value with regards to the particular standard and environment. So what we've posed is that you consider within the application of professional teaching standard number 4, that you review your timetable against the notional times. This gives you an aspect, so when you get to the school, you get the timetable for the class teacher that you'll be placed with, or your mentor teacher. You may be placed with more than one, dependent on the subject that you are doing across your program or your learning experience, and you will then receive the timetable. It's important that you go to your CAPS document for the subject so that you can make sense of the allocated notional times, and then you can start prepping in a planning perspective what you need to focus on and what you need to consider for additional time and program, because you've got a set time, and that's where time management is very important. Highlight your subjects which have more or less allocated time, so that you know in your prepping that you might have to condense a lesson as opposed to elaborate a lesson, or you may have to start with a baseline as opposed to just implementing a lesson on the basis of following a coherent sequencing of learning experiences. Review your lesson plans according to your weekly allocated time. Include positive, negative deviation due to time allocation. It's important that you detail that. Albeit that the allocated time, for example, was 30 minutes for the subject, I only had a teaching opportunity of 20 minutes. And the reason for that was getting the learners settled. There was possibly an incident at school, possibly an incident in the classroom, possibly one of the learners went there, and you had to make clarity on all of that. And as a result, only 25 minutes of the planned presentation was allocated for. So that in your next lesson, you are mindful that you might not have the 30 minutes allocated time because of the settling down time that it takes the learners to settle, to get their books out and to prep. So then you start planning within the allocated time with the understanding of deviation. Then develop your class routine for your subjects. This is where you start making sense of the classroom, start making sense of the routine, whether you do a greeting, whether you do an exclamation, you do a recap, whatever your sense of introduction is, that's how you start building it. And you start working on it so that it starts making sense not only to you, but to those that you are experiencing you in that lesson. And we felt that the value integrity was of vital importance, particularly for the standard. And the reason for that is integrity is who you are when no one is watching, comes to light when everyone is listening. Very important. So as you do this, be mindful of being reflective and reflexive in the sense that your reflection might be biased because it's your personal reflection, but reflexive in the sense that you might find yourself in an experience where you and your mentor teacher are able to discuss what has really happened in the lesson and what are the things that you need to consider within the lesson going forward. On that note, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity, and hereby, if there are any questions, Chair, seek your clarity as to how we are going to progress. I will be sending the PowerPoint presentation to you to share with the collective, as well as a short survey just to establish whether they received the presentation and what are the insightful aspects that they'd like to consider. I submit, Chairperson. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Chilwane. I'll just read from the chat box. I've asked for participants to just write a few questions. So I'll just read a few and then I'll give it over to you. Is that fine with you?
Yes, that is fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you. One of the questions is, what are the requirements for SAYS, and which subjects will be phased out in the next 4 years in the curriculum? I think just answer this one. What requirement do we need to do our SAYS? You can take this one.
Thank you so much. So I will share the actual link for the requirements. I think it's better placed because it depends on who the student is. If they're a B.Ed student, they would need to submit I stand to be advised, and I'm speaking without looking at the actual requirements. They would need to submit the admission to say that they enrolled with their subject content. They would have to submit a police clearance certificate not older than 6 months at the time of submission. They would have to complete an application form and make the application form payment. With regards to the postgraduate certificate in education, they would have to submit their PGCE admissions, as well as the undergrad qualification, which transcript, which indicates that they have completed the qualification effectively. But I will make sure that that information, I've made a note, is also shared with you so that we can share it with the participants effectively. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Here's another one. There's an exception for SAYS registration that allows unqualified students to practice teaching under specific circumstances and be registered provisionally. Which should come first, employment or application for registration with SAYS? Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much. In terms of Section 21 of the SAYS Act, all members should be registered prior to seeking employment. It is of vital importance that you first seek your professional registration with council before you seek employment. This is as defined within the legislative script of the South African Council for Educators. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And there's another one. How often are curriculum like CAPS reviewed for their practicality within the classroom? Over to you.
Thank you so much. I can't speak on behalf of the Department of Basic Education, but I do know when systemic reviews take place, there is insight presented to the stakeholder grouping, and there is discussions that are taken place from the Council of Education Ministers down to the subcommittee, the HEDCOM, which is the heads of education in South Africa, down to the subcommittees such as teacher development and curriculum meeting, which discusses the curriculum changes. I think what's also very important with regards to the cycles within the teaching qualifications is that when you enroll for a Bachelor of Education, that program is implemented in terms of the minimum requirements for teacher education qualifications, and the teachings or the lecturing or the program aspect addresses the curriculum which is to date. Should there be any changes, then the institution that those changes are accounted for and that they are presented within your lectures effectively. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'll just give you one more. The rest of the questions, they can type on the chat box and we will share with our students. Just one more for you. This one is my question, which says is how the application takes place in terms of registration letter. Do we print it from my admin or have it collected or have it stamped? Just the last one for you there. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It needs to be stamped, and we do have the online registration process where they can submit online. What I will do, if it's possible, that we have a session where we'll do SACE registration for the participants, and then we'll take them to the online portal so that they are better placed and they are empowered to apply effectively online. And then also, should they decide to rather come into an office, which may delay their turnaround, they have that opportunity also explained to them. Is that possible?
Yes, that is possible. Thank you so much. We can have that arranged. And with that said, I would like to thank you so much for the presentation and for taking all the questions. And thank you so much from our office. With that said, I'm handing over to our next presenter. And thank you so much, Mrs. Chilwani. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll just project the agenda just for a second so that we can all see. So our next presenter is Mr. Masango. He's our teaching practice coordinator, and he will take us through the placement process. Mr. Masango, if you are ready, you can project. I'm handing over to you. Thank you. Mr. Masango, are you here?
Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Mahanyel. Can you see my screen?
Yes, you can see your screen. Thank you, Mr. Masango. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair, and good morning to everyone, co-presenters, TP students present in this session, and to those who will have opportunity to listen to this recording. My name is Moleboheng Robert Masango, Admin Coordinator in the Teaching Practice Office. I'm here to present the school placement processes and system. And please note that the Teaching Practice Office is responsible for administering the school placement of at least 60,000 students registered for this academic year 2024, and to be placed at most 30,000 schools, including ECD centers, public and private schools, and TVET colleges. Therefore, in ensuring that all students are placed, the office has developed a placement system which is hosted in my UNISA under the admin function. Thus, I will demonstrate how to navigate this system for self-placement submission. As a start, all students are expected to read tutorial letter 102 of the teaching practice modules to have understanding and knowledge about the placement processes, teaching practice module, and supervision guides. We therefore encourage all the students to read tutorial letter 102 for more information about teaching practice. What is required from students to submit placement request using my UNISA? You must have a signed school principal letter, and you will get this letter in page 25 of tutorial letter 102. Print this letter and get it signed and stamped by preferred school when you talk about private school, it is time and cost effective in terms of transport and accommodation. I will now use the example of this student to show you how to submit placement on the UNISA. We can see this student has managed to print this letter to the principal from page. This one is showing page 15, which is from. This shows that other students are using old tutorial letter. This one is for last year, but we encourage students to read recent tutorial letters because of with the new recent tutorial letter. This letter is in page 25. Therefore, students must get this letter and then indicate in terms of name, student number, level, which level, like this student is in level 1, and then also indicated that she will start the practical from the 3rd of April until the 8th of May, and which is 25 school days, and then it's also been signed and stamped. Therefore, when we have this letter, therefore you can come to UNISA, and when we are in UNISA, there's different loadings. Therefore, since the office is responsible for the administration, we ask students not to go to log to my modules. They must go to log into my admin. And when they are in my admin, then they will enter their student number and password. And the system will allow them to go inside. When it's inside, then the student must go to my admin. They click my admin. Under my admin, they will see these functions, which there's teaching practice. And under teaching practice, then they go to student placement. And therefore, when they are under school placement, and the system will ask them to enter network code. And the network code is their student number. They must enter student number. And the system will allow them to have the requirements to, this student does not have placements to add, you must just click OK. And then it will show the student details, the year of registration, the module, and the qualification. This is a B.Ed in foundation phase. And then for now, we encourage students in the previous years, students, they were guided to start with the school agreement confirmation, but this year this has been phased out, and then working hand in hand with ICT, starting from next week, we will not have this option because of school agreement confirmation, because of its confusing students. We'll only have these two options of place module with date or place module, no date blocks. Therefore, for now, let us take this of place module with date blocks. When you click this, it will give more information to be filled in. And this, it shows that a student has registered only one module, and students can also select the language of teaching and learning and the level of this module, which is level 1. And therefore, students must search for school. And this student that I'm using as an example is based in Limpopo. Therefore, we take the province Limpopo, we select the district is Kukunyaland, and then again through the queries from the students, we have identified that these magisterial districts, some of the students are not familiar with them. So starting from next week, we'll have the option of all. Like when we are in Limpopo and we are not sure of your magisterial district, then we can just click all. But for now, as we know, for this student is in Skukunya-land, and then we check the name of the school, which is Hlaratse. Then when you go and type the school Hlaratse, even if you don't type it in full, just few starting letters, and then the school will appear under the Limpopo, which is in Luwahumu, and then the student can select that school. And when the school is selected, then the students can check their date. The students said they will start on the 3rd of April, which must be 21st school days. And then the signed letter must be saved somewhere in your folders. And when it's saved, you must start by searching the letter that you have saved from under your folder, and then get it. After getting it, you upload. After uploaded, then you save the information. When the information is saved like this, means the placement has successfully submitted to the teaching practice office, and it will show this information of edit. And the students, if they wish to edit, and then this option will only be available of edit when the allocation of supervisors is not yet done. The time when the office has allocated and send you a confirmation letter, will no longer have this option of edit. It will only be active when we are not yet allocated the supervisor. So when it's like this, you can edit the school. If you want to change, means you will also require to add the confirmation letter again. If you want to change the date to any date, maybe you are deciding to start from the 8th and then finish from on the 11 or 13. The 25 days will be 13 due to holidays. Then when you save, the information will be changed from the 8th of April to the 13th. That is how simply the students are expected to submit their placement information using my UNISA. That is the end of our presentation from the administration office. Thank you very much, and back to you, Program Director.
Thank you so much, Mr. Masango, for taking us through the placement process. I just asked our students to just type on the chat box for any questions that they have. With that said, I'm going to hand over to Ms. Mbukwe, our TP, our teaching practice coordinator, to take some of the questions. I'm not sure if Mr. Masango, are you assisting her, or she will take them by herself? Mr. Masango?
Okay, no problem. Since you will present also, maybe I can help her with the answering of the question, and then she can come with the second part of our presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Ms. Mbukwe, welcome, over to you. Are you here? Ms. Mbukwe?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. Over to you.
Okay, good morning. So as Mr. Masango has already presented the student system part, for me is just to share with you some of the concern and some of the things that might delay your placement in our office. So we want to share with you these things because there's challenges on top of maybe some of the challenges that you might be having, and obviously you will share those on the chat with us so that we can be able to help you and feel at ease today. So some of the challenges is that students, they are not informing the teaching practice about when they're going to do teaching practice at the school. They are not informing our office. So when they start already with their teaching practice period, and that causes us to actually then be behind with what we are supposed to do. And, you know, it then delays the letters that we need to send to them. So we urge that students must send these letters, or must do the process that Mr. Masango has taken us through this morning, so that we can get the information and you can get the letter as early as you can be able to get the letter. Definitely in our office, we have a lot of students who come through, and if you send the letter today and you are already starting next week, chances are you will start without the letter. So we, in an ideal world, would like that if you will be starting in April, please send your application for placement as soon as already this month. So we need days, about 20 days, just so that we can, because you are not only serving one student, but there are many students. So the second thing is that some students, they submit placement forms and immediately start. I think that's another thing. Then when you submit today and you start already, that's that. We are still placing students who started on the 12th of Feb, but you find that their placement just got to be logged in on the system. So already it's so difficult for the office to actually place a student who is saying that they've started on the 12th, and which means that they are ending already next week. So that delays the thing as we verify. So we want to urge you students to actually try and make sure that that is sorted out as well. So some of the students, they register more than one TP module, and they only give us one module that they want to do. For example, you are registered for 2 modules that your TP F2601, and you are also registered for the 3rd one. All right. So you give us the details of placement for the 3rd module or for the 4th module, depending on which one you are registered for. And when you get into the system, we see that you are registered for more. Then we don't know if you have started with the other one or you will be starting. And sometimes the one that you give, you find that it's only coming later on in the year, as in maybe on the 2nd semester or later on in April. And we're wondering, when are you going to start with the others? As we know that we don't necessarily have much more school days even during the year, especially for people who are doing more than one TP module. As some of you have been allowed by the registration, which is also something that we have control. We have control over. We do not have control over that. We get students as we get them from registration. So you need to sit down and deliberate on the days and how you want to do teaching practice throughout the year, so that you have the 25 days for each, which is the last point there. You have the 25 days for each of the modules that you are registered for. Just because you are registered for more than one module or 3 modules, depending, it doesn't mean that you have to put all of those modules together. Each of the modules that you are registered for, it needs to have 25 days that is dedicated for each So no dates must overlap for each of your modules. You need to have the one that you do. It must count to 25 days as you submit to us, and the other one, and etc. So that is one of the challenges that really make us to delay. And what this slide is already just having what I've already shared with you, that please try and make sure that you submit your information as early as possible. Whether you have one module that you are registered for this year or you have many. And remember, if you have many modules that you are registered this year and you need to do teaching practice for, you do not have much time. So you need to sit down and check with the people that you need to check with and submit the dates that you know they will allow you to have the 25 days separated for each of the periods. That is very much important. And sometimes you will find that we'll send back an email if you have submitted to us information that is already passed. We would like to see the proof that you already have been to the school, because if we were to place you for practicals and that you submitted very late to our office, but already you are finishing or you have 2 days to finish, we are not really sure that you actually went to school or not. So that delays the process of you submitting whatever that you need to submit when it comes to assignments that have some of the information that is dependent on you having been placed in our office. So that's why then that would help us so that we decrease the inquiries from both ends. Basically, then this slide is about that, and also, the times if you submit when you already completed, really it becomes an issue. So we really want to make sure that students, they submit early so that they can get the supervision, the supervisor, and they know all of that on due time, so that student is not being called back by a supervisor when they are done with their practicals, but they didn't alert the office on time. And now they are saying, I didn't get to be supervised because the supervisor came in late. So we need to try and work together on that to make sure that you get what you're supposed to get from our office. There has been, where are we? Okay. All right, so there has been some changes already. The placement process has been demonstrated here, and we hope that there will be questions, and probably you will write them on the chat so that we can be able to answer those as well. Those are the changes that I'm sure some of the students are getting challenges on, but also in our office, we have a new email address that we use. We no longer use the TeachPreg. We are never using the TeachPreg email address that you normally get your letters from. That is for that, for you to get a letter. But we do not reply from that email address because it's not for replying purposes if you send anything to us via that. Now, for your placement-related documents, as it is indicated on Natural Letter 102, we would like to ask that you send, as per the instructions that are on your Natural Letter 102, you send the documents that are indicated there to the policytech@unisa.ac.za. Please do not CC anyone in the office when you send those documents there. Send them there so that we can have them. Now, you sending the documents to this policy tech, it doesn't mean you are placed. Being placed, you would have done your process as what was presented before this presentation that I'm doing now. So sending you there is for us to know to have all these the documents that you didn't also attach when you were doing the application on the system itself. So that is also very much important. That know that when you send anything to the policy tag, it's not for us to go and check and place you from there, because you need to apply for the placement via the process that has been shared with you. So when you send those documents there, don't CC anyone in the office. You send them there because you would have already attached all the necessary document, which is the letter from the principal when you do the application, and then you send the rest of the documents that you are told to send as per Tutorial Letter 102, and then you send them to the policy tag. So you all know those documents if you read them, the tutorial letter. So for inquiries about your placement status, or you are having challenges in terms of the placement for your module that you are registered for, we would like you to use these email addresses that are on the screen here. Yes, for inquiries, you need to use these. As you can see there, each and every module has got somebody who will be responsible to answer your questions. Maybe it's a question about you are struggling on the system when you do the application, but please don't use these email addresses to send all your documents. All your documents that we talked about already, they need to be sent to the policy tag. These email addresses are for you when you are not maybe getting the letter for your placement. You have already been submitted your application and you're not getting a letter. Please then use these email addresses to inquire on that. And I made a mistake there, but this is the correct email address for this person, and there I didn't put the name. But this person is Miss Botha. So that's it on my side. I'll appreciate if you have any inquiries or things that you want to check via the chat. I'm available to answer those to your satisfaction. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mbuke. There's a few questions on the chat box. I will give 2 to Mr. Masango and 2 to you. Mr. Masango, the first one coming your way. Is there confirmation of placement, the proof of placement, or what? Can we approach a school ourselves, or does UNISA place us? Just one more for you, Mr. Masango. I can't find the school that is close to me. I followed all the guidelines from my tutorial letter. I can't find other schools, but they are a bit far. Please, how do we solve this? And Ms. Mbuke, your questions? I'm relocating to Zimbabwe from SA in the next month. Will I be allowed to complete my teaching practice in Zimbabwe? The next one, I did my placement with the TP office as I couldn't locate my school. I wanted to know if it is possible to do 5 weeks of practicals at 2 different high schools, where you would do 2.5 weeks FET in school A and the other 2.5 weeks senior phase in school B, or is it strictly one school that you must be placed in? Mr. Masango, you can take the first 3, and Ms. Mbuke, the next 2 in that order. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Masango.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Yes, the first one, which consists of 2 questions in terms of the student want to know about the approach to request a school placement. Has been advised by our presenters, especially from Ms. Mbuke, is that students must read the tutorial letter 102, and there is documents that they are available in tutorial letter 102, which must be submitted to the school by the students when they are requesting to be placed in a particular school. And that document, they also consist of the principal letter. Those documents, they are the one that assist students to request their placement. And after the school have, because of the duty from the universities that in a higher level, there is a negotiation that are taking place, that the schools are aware that UNISA have students from the teaching practice, which time to time they will request to do the practical. That means schools will not be surprised when they are approached by one of our students when they want to request for school placement. What we request from the students is that when they go to school, they must not just go empty-handed. They must go with the documents that they are in tutorial letter 102. Because of those documents, they talk about what is the expectations from the schools, what is expected from the principal in terms of assisting the students, and what will be the role of the mentor teacher. And then there is agreement forms that the school, the mentor teacher, and the student will need to sign. And when they agree with that, then they will also get that signed letter. That is why we've presented that when they submit, they must attach the signed letter, and the documents that Ms. Mbuku was talking about to be sent to Policy Tech is those agreement forms between the student and the school. And indeed, in the previous years, we have received queries from schools that students, they just come with nothing when they request to be placed. So we ask students that please read your tutorial letter 102. Is the one that gives you a clear guidance in terms of how should we request a placement in a particular school. Therefore, when we have placed and we have successfully completed the online placement information, then the office will send you a confirmation letter. That is the last step, the confirmation letter. And then the inquiries contact details have been presented. When we are not receiving any response from our office, then you can contact those colleagues to find out about your confirmation letter. And we have given ourselves 24 hours to respond to those queries. Therefore, if we have submitted your placement successfully online, and after 24 hours, we have not received any communication from Teaching Practice Office, feel free to communicate with our office. And then the last one, in terms of you can't find a school, we have talked about a preferred school. So in this concept is that we don't want the student to struggle when they go to every day to their schools in terms of transport and accommodation. We encourage students to get schools that they are in the periphery of their residentials. So if there is an issue that the schools that they are closer to them cannot accommodate them, then it's when they can escalate that matter to the office to say, I have these 1, 2, 3 schools, they cannot accommodate me, can you assist? Then the office will step in to assist that you are placed in those particular schools. And then we'll also find out from the schools why they are not accepting you to do to accept you to do the practicals. Then we will negotiate and get a way forward in that regard. That I think I've managed to respond to all the questions. Thank you very much. And back to you, Program Director.
Thank you so much, Mr. Masango. Ms. Mbukwe, are you ready to take the questions? Over to you.
Thank you. So the first question was about the person who's relocating to another country, which is outside the borders of South Africa. In a perfect world, when you study at UNISA, you actually need to register as per the country where you will be doing, especially with the countries. So when that has happened, then you normally then get to be registered under that country. When we check your details, we'll find that they are under that country. Even obviously with the province, but we know that students do flow crossing from one province to another and one country to the next. And some of them, they do this because there are probably levies that you pay internationally if you register as an international student. So they keep that under wraps just so that they register in South Africa and then they go back to their countries. But obviously these are issues that are beyond some of them students' control. They are probably staying in somewhere and then they have to move due to those reasons or maybe work and all of that. So what then would happen to you and anyone who's probably going from one province to the next, you will, if you're going from one province to the next, you will do the same process for the province where you will be doing your practicals, and you will follow the same process that Mr. Masango has actually alluded to. But if you are then doing your practicals, you are registered in South Africa, doing your practicals as per the question, you're going to be doing them in another country, then we would like you to still do what Mr. Masango said as the first process of going to the school and asking and carrying the documents that we have on the General Letter 102. And when you then get the confirmation or the signed agreement by the principal and agreeing on the dates as to when you're going to do your practicals, because you will be doing them outside of the country. So we would like you to send those to the person whom, as I have presented to you for the module that you are doing. So you will send your letter signed by the principal and explaining that you are in another country, so that we can be able to place you from our side. Currently, students who are doing teaching practice outside of the country, their schools are not necessarily showing on the system, especially if it's not schools that we have used before. for placement. So if you have tried the placement process, as Mr. Masango has alluded to, then you find that you are struggling, then please send that to the person as was presented. Okay, so send yours there, and then you wait for the response. So you need to do that as soon as possible so that the process can take place and you give time for everyone involved to do what is necessary. The second question, really, I would love that if Mr. Masango has an answer to answer that. But on my side, what I know is that currently the system cannot allow you to actually register on different schools. You can do blocks if you are doing the practicals yourself, like you are applying on the system. You can do blocks 10 days and 15 days for the same modules at the same school, for the same module at the same school. But when it comes to different schools, I'm going to say this, but then Mr. Masango will correct me if I'm actually wrong, and maybe, you know, the lecturers here, if also that would impact anything that has to do with grades and all of the other things that are necessary for the module requirements. But what we normally do in our office is to receive the inquiry from the student who want to do for both and in different schools, but doing one practical, breaking it, doing a period in another school and doing the other one in another school, but for the same period, then we would do that in our office. We will help the students to actually make sure that they are placed. I will give it to you, Mr. Masango, or you, Ms. Mahanyele, to answer this as well, if I didn't answer to the best of my knowledge currently. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mbuke. I will give it to Mr. Masango to take, and while he's busy about to take the question, can I ask that, can you please maybe project for us once again the module and the email addresses of our staff members in our office, so that maybe students can see that for 2 minutes before the next presenter, so they can inquire from the office and all the teaching practice staff that can assist them. And can I just reiterate that placement inquiries must be sent to those email addresses, not to the teaching practice manager. Thank you so much. Mr. Masango, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Mahanyele. And also to include the inquiries, they must not send to the TeachPreg. TeachPreg is a system, is an automated mailbox which send correspondences to the schools, to supervisors and to students. So it's clear to our supervisors and also to students that when you receive any communication from the office will come through the TeachPreg, but do not reply to that TeachPreg. Any query must be sent to the contact details as presented. And Ms. Mbutu, maybe as I speak, you can also reproject that contact details so that all students can see it. And then to add to the last question in terms of doing in different schools, yes, indeed, in the system there is a block period where it will show students that they will do 10 days in one school and maybe 15 days in another school. So the system will show them like that. And then when they want to change, because of it will show one school in 2 blocks. First is a school for 10 days. The same school will be for 15 days. And then the system will allow them to edit. If they want to change the second information that for these 15 days, they will not do it at this school, then the system will allow them to change that school and put the second one. And then if they are also struggling with that, then there is when they can send their inquiry to the office for further assistance. Yes, thank you very much. And back to you, Program Director.
Thank you so much, Mr. Masango. Thank you very much, Ms. Mbuke, for taking us through the placement process and all the inquiries. Can I ask that our two coordinators, can you please maybe share the contact details for the modules on the chat box? Thank you so much for the presentation and for your support. Thank you, coordinators. Our next speaker is Mrs. Naidu, and she's going to be presenting on student supervision process, the importance of teaching practice, and the role of a supervisor and a mentor teacher. Mrs. Naidu, if you are ready, I'm handing over to you. Are you here? Mrs. Naidu?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Over to you. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, students, and good morning, colleagues, and welcome to the student orientation this morning. My name is Mrs. Catherine Naidu, and I'm the module coordinator for the module TPN 2602. This morning, I'm going to be talking to you about the teaching practice supervision process. I'm sorry, I just need to get back to my slides. Okay, go. Okay, in order to talk about the student supervision process, I thought it's important we look at what is teaching practice, the importance of teaching practice, the supervision.
Sorry, Mrs. Naidu. Sorry, so your slides are not being shared.
Okay, all right, let me just start again. I'm sorry, let me just escape. Okay, I think I need to go back out and start to reshare. Okay, just let me know once you are seeing my slides, please, Professor Miran.
Thank you. We can see your slides.
All right.
Over to you.
Thank you. I'm just going to begin. All right. So I was saying, students, that in order to talk about the student supervision process, there's a few questions that I'm going to look at in my presentation. What is teaching practice? The importance of teaching practice, supervision, the process, the role of the supervisor, the role of the mentor teacher, and the role and the responsibilities of the student teacher, that's you, our students. So what is teaching practice? Teaching practice is an important component of becoming a teacher. Hence, it is a compulsory component for the B.Ed and PGCE qualification. All B.Ed students undertake 5 weeks or 25 days of compulsory teaching practice at a registered school. All PGCE students undertake 10 weeks or 50 days of compulsory teaching practice at a registered school. And I think I must stress that a registered school is important. You cannot just go to any school. The school must be registered with the Department of Basic Education. Often when we are marking portfolios, we realize that some of our students have gone to very small schools that don't follow the CAPS curriculum and that are not even registered. So the school doesn't even have a proper stamp, and that becomes the problem when you submit your portfolio. The number of days of teaching practice that you are required to do or to complete is determined by the Department of Higher Education and Training. This number is not negotiable. We are aware that many of you work full-time. However, teaching practice is compulsory and must be completed for you to qualify as a teacher. I've been reading on the chat now, when many of you ask about public holidays, remember we're counting the days and not always the weeks. So we say 5 weeks / 25 days. So in the 5 weeks, if one day is a public holiday, then you must make up that public holiday. So in the end, you would have completed either 25 days or 50 days, but the days are more important than the week. So if you find yourself at school for a public holiday, Easter, the day of the voting, please just add another day to your teaching practice. Why is teaching practice important? It allows student teachers like yourself to experience a real teaching and learning environment. It allows you to put into practice what you have learned in the different modules that you have studied. So it's important that you can go into a classroom and practice all the knowledge that you have studied either this year or the previous years while doing your B.Ed curriculum or PGCE. It's very important in 2024 because all final year students will be awarded a mark for supervision, and this mark will form a large part of your portfolio mark. So we'd like to stress that in 2024, all final year students will be supervised. The supervision process at UNISA. UNISA is currently using two models of supervision. The first model is face-to-face supervision, where supervisor visits you in the classroom, and the other is the online supervision, which you will be told about in detail later on today. The supervisor will contact you and explain to you which type of supervision you are going to experience. In 2024, all final year students will be prioritized in terms of supervision. The supervision process. You will be allocated a supervisor. Your supervisor will communicate with you via email or WhatsApp. And therefore, it is incredibly important for you to check your emails regularly. Your supervisor will use your My Life UNISA email to contact you. Once you are at school doing your teaching practice, I urge you to look at your emails every day because the supervisor will contact you, especially if you're in your final year. You must respond to your supervisor by suggesting a date and a time for your supervision. Your supervisor will send you 3 documents, the first being your assessment document. So in that way, you will know exactly how your supervisor is going to assess you and what they're going to be looking for during supervision. You will also get a declaration form, which you will complete with signatures from the school principal and a school stamp. And then there's an evaluation form, which you will complete about your experience of teaching practice, because our aim every year is to make your teaching practice experience better. So please complete this form honestly. We would really want to know your experience of teaching practice. All these 3 documents will be completed and given to your supervisor if your supervisor is doing a face-to-face supervision. But if your supervision is online, then you will scan and email all these documents to your supervisor, preferably on the day you've completed your supervision. So you don't forget anything. Your supervisor has the documents. They send it to the teaching practice office, and that's our only record that you have been supervised. Now I'm going to look at the role of a teaching practice supervisor. The role of a teaching practice supervisor is really to offer you support, to observe and evaluate you in the classroom, and to provide you with feedback and to reflect with you after your lessons is completed. We often refer to that as post-conferencing. We're now looking in detail at each aspect of the support that your supervisor is going to provide you with. So your supervisor is going to make you feel comfortable with being supervised. They're going to encourage you not to be afraid and not to feel anxious. We are aware that many students really don't like to be supervised, but your supervisor is going to reassure you that supervision at UNISA is developmental rather than punitive. So we're not looking at faults, but we're finding ways to understand what you've taught, how you've taught, and to provide you with support so you can go out there and be a better teacher. Then the supervisor is going to observe and evaluate. Your supervisor is going to observe you in the classroom. They're going to evaluate your teaching performance based on established criteria. That was the assessment form that I referred to earlier. So you will get the assessment form and you will see the different categories about how you're going to be assessed. So you need not fear your supervision. This evaluation is done to help you understand your strengths and areas for development. During the classroom supervision, the supervisor will not disturb you or cause any distraction. Even if you said something that was incorrect, the supervisor is not going to correct you while you're teaching. So their role in the classroom is just to observe you. And when they've completed the observation is when you get an opportunity to reflect and for the supervisor to give you some feedback. This session is referred to as post-conferencing. You will have the session with your supervisor after you've taught the lesson, preferably in a quiet part of the school. Your supervisor must provide you with feedback, with constructive feedback after the lesson. The supervisor will begin with the positive aspects of your lesson before offering advice on how to improve your practice. The feedback is meant to encourage you to reflect on your practice, as this will encourage continuous improvement of your teaching skills. This session will be a conversation rather than a fault-finding mission. So here you've got to be very honest with your supervisor. Tell them what's worked, what's not worked, how your other lessons have been. Because remember, your supervisor's only watching one lesson and you have taught many other lessons. So you're going to engage in a conversation by telling them what you think your strengths are and areas that you think you may need some help in. So let's look at the role of the mentor teacher. So when you go to school to do your supervision, the principal or some member of the school management will appoint a mentor teacher to you. Your mentor teacher at the school is supposed to introduce you to the school community and to make you feel at home, make you comfortable in the school. Their role is also to help you understand the school activities and practices. For those of you that have gone to different schools, you'll know that every school is slightly different and they may have slightly altered start and finish times. They would have different extramural activities, and some of their practices may be different. For example, a staff meeting at the beginning of the school day or a staff meeting at the end of the school day. So here is when your mentor teacher will help you adjust to the school. Your mentor teacher must also provide you with information about the school policies, the regulations, and whatever resources he or she uses at school. Remember, you'll be in some portfolios, lecturers ask you to comment on certain school policies, etc. So if you need this in advance, please talk to your mentor teacher and ask them for help. The other important aspect of having a mentor teacher is that your mentor teacher, by observing them, your mentor teacher demonstrates teaching techniques and strategies. And this is what you get from observing their practice. They will also help you provide a space in the classroom for you to work and keep your materials. And this is where I'd like to tell you that it's really important to begin your portfolio while you are in the classroom. Do not wait to complete your teaching practice and then think back of the lessons you did, reflecting on the school. It's too late. And we find that students that do that write really bad portfolios. But if you do your portfolio while you're at school, you write more interesting portfolios. And if you need help, your mentor teacher's there. Your mentor teacher will also encourage you to evaluate your own progress by reflecting on your teaching. So you're going to be spending 5 weeks at the school. And each day of every week, you're going to watch yourself grow and develop. And the mentor teacher is probably going to comment on aspects of your teaching or the rapport you've developed with the students, the learners, all interesting things that they've watched and seen how you've progressed during the 5 weeks. The mentor teacher should also be present when you are being observed by the supervisor. Please invite your mentor teacher and tell them the date and the time that you're going to be supervised. It's important for the mentor teacher to be present as well as to join you and the supervisor, even if it's just for a few minutes after the lesson in your post-conferencing, because we'd like to believe that the mentor teacher has seen you and experienced a lot more of your teaching than just the supervisor. So the input from the mentor teacher is just as important in your development as the feedback from the supervisor is. The mentor teacher must be available for a few minutes after the lesson during the post-conferencing to talk to your supervisor. We know that in most schools, mentor teachers are very busy, especially if they're teaching the lower grades. But even if they were just to spend a few minutes with your supervisor, that would be greatly appreciated from the staff at UNISA. So just as the mentor teacher has a role and the school has a role and the teaching practice office has a role and your lecturers, it's so important for me to tell you about your role as a student teacher during teaching practice. So as a student teacher, you must always respect your mentor's experience and expertise. Please do not get into an argument with them. We've had cases like that when students email us and tell us they don't have a good mentor. Try your best to show respect to your mentor and try to establish a good working relationship with your mentor. Because the better the relationship you have with your mentor, the more likely they are to share their knowledge with you, their experience with you, all the little tricks and trades of the teaching industry. And people that have been in teaching for a long time have a lot to share. You must always show appreciation for the time your mentor spends helping you. Because you must remember that mentor teachers are not paid. They are doing this mentoring out of the goodness of their heart. And this is more reason for you to show your gratitude to them. So in turn, what you should do is always be willing to go the extra mile. Offer to help your mentor teacher with tasks that are not necessarily in your portfolio, because this is going to help and develop you into this great teacher that we want you to be. Finally, you must also remember that when you're a student on teaching practice, you are representative of UNISA when you are at the school. So it's important to spread a good message or an image about this institution that you have chosen to study at. It's also important for you to create a lasting impression, because schools are always looking for teachers. And when they have a position at their school, you want to have left them with such a good first impression that you are going to be the person they are going to call to fill their position. So it's very important as a student to bear that in mind throughout your teaching practice at the school. The roles and responsibilities of the student during supervision. Firstly, you have to make sure that you are present and you show up for your supervision. We've stressed the importance. Once a supervisor communicates with you and you have set a date and time, please do everything you can to be present and show up for your supervision. If there's an emergency, and it has to be a real emergency, then you must communicate any change of a date or time of supervision with your supervisor ASAP. It could be that the school has decided to have a sports day, they've changed the timetable around to accommodate a drama production, or there's a union march, whatever. If something does come up in the rare case and you know that your supervisor is visiting you tomorrow, it's your responsibility to communicate with your supervisor, because some of them have traveled great lengths to be there. So they will need to very quickly change the date and the time. Students must submit their lesson plan to the supervisor as soon as their supervision date and time is confirmed. In order for your supervisor to give you constructive feedback, it's really important for them to read your lesson plan and to see what you're going to be doing. So when they observe you, they can see that lesson plan come alive. And then in their feedback, they could assist you in finding other ways in which the lesson could have been taught, or just say, well done, I think you've done a great job. There was no other way this lesson could have been better. So it's very important to send your lesson plan to your supervisor ahead of time. And don't just do it a day before, because some students have a way of sending their lesson plan at 12 midnight and the next morning at 8 o'clock there's a supervision. Please bear in mind that your supervisors are human. They need to read the lesson plan in advance. And finally, as a student, you must complete all the documents and you either give them or email them to your supervisor. As I've said earlier, if you are having a face-to-face supervision, then you will give all your documents to your supervisor after your meeting with them. If your supervision was done online, then you'll email it to the supervisor as soon as possible that day or the next, so that you know all your documents are in order and you do have proof that you've been supervised. Finally, thank you, and that brings me to the end of my presentation, and my last words to you is enjoy your teaching practice experience.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Naidu. There's a few questions on the chat box. I'll just give you about 3.
Sure.
The first one is, will all our lessons be marked by our mentor teacher in all the grades 1, 2, and 3, or should we choose one lesson in each grade that will be marked by our mentor teacher? That's number 1. I'll just give you another one. Sorry about that. Do we have to do the 25 days for grade 7 to 9 and other 25 days for grade 10 to 12? Or is it 25 days divided by 2? I'm confused there. Please help. I'm registered for TPS 2601. Okay, this is the first year student. Just take those 2 and I'll just add 1 more for you. Thank you. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. With regards to the first question, I think that's very specific to my ECD colleagues. And I wouldn't mind if one of them could answer that. I'm not sure if it comes directly from the portfolio. I see Dr. Manyaka's hand is up. Can I allow her to answer the very specific ECD question, please?
Yes, you can go through.
Thank you.
Dr.
Thank you.
Manyaka?
The question is not clear. When the student says, should the mentor mark? The mentor doesn't mark lesson plans. They only guide, but when you teach, they fill in a mentor is there at the end of every lesson. They reflect on what you have taught. They are not necessarily marking. They are just reflecting what you have done and recording the progress, answering the questions that are there. It's not marking. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Naidu, I see that on the chat box, our academics, our colleagues are answering the questions like this one. I'll just share this one. Are the first year students only observing, or are we teaching as well? If we are only observing, what is the supervisor going to assess when they come to the school? And I see Dr. Mokati has answered this one. You are only observing. If maybe you would want to add on that one before I release you. Mrs. Naidu,
no, that's correct. That's correct. And thank you to my colleagues who are answering questions on the chat. I will also continue to answer questions on the chat.
Thank you so much for the presentation and for giving us so much knowledge. Thank you so much. With that said, I will hand over to our next presenter, Dr. Lise, and Dr. Lise will be handling online supervision. Dr. Lise, are you ready? Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director. Good morning, colleagues, and a very good morning to all the students that have attended today. Kindly confirm, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen and you are audible. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Wonderful. So I'll jump straight in. So just to recap on what Ms. Naidu said, you will be informed by your supervisor whether you are going to undergo a face-to-face or an online supervision. So my presentation just goes around what happens during the online supervision. And you can see on my slide, my presentation is divided into three. In other words, what happens before and what you need to do to prepare for successful online supervision, and then what will happen during the online supervision, and then lastly, what happens after the online supervision. And you'll see I just took a screenshot. We do have an updated document, Teaching Practice Online Student Supervision Guidelines. So this will be made available to you as well. So in terms of a summary of what I'm going to share with you, you will be able to have a look at that document. All right, so moving on to preparing for successful online supervision. The way that your supervisor is going to contact you is via your student email. And I understand that you all have Gmail accounts, your own private email accounts. Unfortunately, we cannot use anything except the student email, because this is formal communication that happens between your supervisor and yourself. So all correspondence is going to be sent to you via your student email, and also likely through WhatsApp messages from your supervisor. So with this in mind, it's very important to check that your contact number is updated on the system. Sometimes when the supervisor tries to contact you, they get hold of your mother or your father or your boyfriend or girlfriend. So please go onto the system and ensure that your current number is the number that is on the system so that we can contact you appropriately. You need to secondly familiarize yourself with the guideline document that I mentioned. There's also a student declaration form. There are the teaching practice evaluation form and assessment form. So those will be provided to you beforehand. So it gives you a very nice idea of what it is exactly that your supervisor is going to be looking for. So when you are preparing your lesson plans, you can use those documents to prepare accordingly and make sure that you address the various things that the supervisor will be assessing you on. Thirdly, you need to be familiar with Microsoft Teams. Now, I do realize that I'm speaking to the converted today because all of you here have successfully used Microsoft Teams and joined this meeting. But what I would suggest is that you share with others if you can, and if you are already using Teams, please make sure that you have a test Teams session beforehand. And this could take the form of having a Teams test session with a friend of yours, another student, or someone that you know that has Microsoft Teams, so that you can just practice and become very familiar with the different functionalities of Teams. And I've highlighted some of them here. So functionalities that you need to be familiar with in order to have a great Teams session with your supervisor. Be able to share your screen. Be able to share files. In other words, your supervisor might say to you, please will you just share your lesson plan, right? Your supervisor might do that for you, but be familiar with the file sharing function. And then importantly, the microphone on and off function and the camera on and off function as well. Those are at the top right-hand side of the screen. And then once your supervisor has made initial contact with you, you will mutually agree on a date for the online supervision. So if you, for example, are starting your teaching practice supervision on the 2nd of April, for example, your supervisor is not going to request a supervision session the following day. All right, we do understand that you need a little bit of time to settle down and settle in with the routines of the school. So make sure that there is that conversation that takes place between you and your supervisor regarding the date and the time for that online supervision. As Ms. Naidu said, please submit your lesson plan and your declaration form to your online supervisor at least a day before the online supervision. So as Ms. Naidu said, please not at midnight the night before, but preferably in the morning of the day before. Then just one thing that we've noticed that students sometimes get the declaration form confused and incorrect information is placed in different places. At the top there, it says, I, the principal or HOD or teaching practice specialist of. That is the name of the principal, for example, of the school where you are doing your teaching practice supervision. In that second space, the name of the school needs to be filled in, and then you will circle the appropriate title of the supervisor. So let's just say it's Dr. Lees. It will say Dr. Debbie Lees has come to our school to visit and support student, and you will fill in your name and your student number. And then at the bottom, the school principal will sign, and then they will put the date, and the school stamp should be given there as well. So that's just to ensure that you include the correct information in the correct spaces. And then regarding the Microsoft Teams session, you need to ensure that you have enough data to ensure a Teams session of 2 hours at least. You will find that the online supervision Teams meeting link on your Outlook calendar. So please go to your student email and then to the calendar function, and that is where you will find the link to join that Teams meeting with your supervisor. Now we move to what happens during the online supervision. So let's say that you are doing a teaching practice session today at 12 o'clock. You will join at about 10 to 12 before the lesson. Your supervisor is then going to join as well a few minutes before to ensure that you can start your lesson on time. So there's just a few administrative matters just to ensure that everything runs smoothly a few minutes before the lesson actually begins. It's important to note that your mentor teacher should be present before and during the lesson. The supervisor is going to want to be polite and thank the mentor teacher for allowing the supervisor to come virtually into the class. And if there's anything that needs to be discussed quickly before, it can be done. This time beforehand, and I'm referring to number 2, we should turn our cameras on before the lesson to greet each other. And that's important just for the connection, because sometimes it can become a little less personalized if we don't do this. So before the lesson starts, it's a good idea for the supervisor and the student to turn on their cameras so that they can both smile, greet each other, say hello. And it also allows the supervisor and the student to just ensure that the student places the device that they are going to use appropriately at the back of the classroom. And this is important because you don't want your supervisor to be staring at the ceiling while you are presenting your lesson. So that's something that you could also practice beforehand. And you will just get confirmation from your supervisor, yes, he or she can see you clearly, and that device will be placed at the back of the classroom. Importantly, the device you use is up to you as long as Teams can be used. And it's very important to note that Microsoft Teams is the official platform to be used during online supervision. You cannot use WhatsApp video, other platforms, etc. It must be Microsoft Teams. Once everything is in place and ready, the student will say, I'm ready to start. At that stage, the supervisor will switch off their camera and mute their microphone. And as Ms. Naidu said, they will not interrupt you, they will not correct you, and it's less distracting for the student teacher to have that camera off. Then the student is going to present his or her lesson, and you will just adhere to the normal times for your lesson. We do understand that the duration of a lesson is different for different schools. On to number 4. When the teaching session is over, the student will inform the supervisor and they will turn their cameras on again, and the student should stay connected and leave the classroom with the gadget that he or she is using and not disconnect. So that gadget could be a smartphone, it could be a tablet, it could be a laptop. It's up to you as the student. But please just allow the supervisor a few minutes to talk to your mentor teacher with you before you leave the classroom to have that post-conference session with your supervisor. So leaving the class, the student remains connected to the Microsoft Teams meeting, and please arrange a quiet area, preferably indoors, where the post-conference session can begin with the online supervisor. It's a very good idea to move to perhaps an empty class down the hallway, or any place that is quiet, that's got a chair and a table onto which you can put your device and you can have piece of paper and make some notes if you would like to, thinking of questions that you may ask the supervisor as well. Then the post-conference session takes place. This is number 5. So reflection and feedback will take place between you and your online supervisor. And please note, even though it's online, we have very successful interactive sessions between the student and the supervisor. So this is the opportunity for the supervisor to provide constructive feedback on the lesson. And as Ms. Naidu mentioned, this will always be positive. And even if you have an excellent lesson, the supervisor will do his or her best to help you and give you guidance on how to take your lessons to even greater heights. So please see this in a positive light, because we certainly do see it positively. The supervisor will share his or her screen with the student and carefully go through the assessment form. So if you look at the assessment form, there is a Likert scale, in other words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 being the highest, and the supervisor will allocate a mark for that particular item and then discuss that with you. And you are most welcome as a student to give your feedback as well and give comments and perhaps give reasons for why you did take the decision to do certain things. So your feedback is very important as well. During this session, there's also a section for self-reflection. Now, this is easy enough to do in a face-to-face context, but we have to do it slightly differently in an online session. So I've just taken a screenshot here where there is the student self-reflection. There are, I think, 7 questions that ordinarily the student would fill in these. However, because we're in an online context, the online supervisor will read the question to the student. So, for example, how do you feel about the lesson you presented? And then you will give your answer back to the supervisor, and on your behalf, the supervisor will type in your comments verbatim. In other words, word for word, as you gave the answer. And then you will be able to confirm with the supervisor, yes, that I'm satisfied with the answer that you have dictated, that I have dictated to you. Then after the online supervision, the online supervisor, after your session, is going to finalize the assessment form, place his or her signatures, etc. And then all of your forms that have been filled in will be sent to the teaching practice office. And at the same time, the online supervisor will email all of these documents to you as the student for your personal records. So that was short and sweet. That is the end of my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing now. And Program Director, I'm not sure, I wasn't looking at the questions, but there may be some questions.
Thank you, Dr. Lees. There is questions, but I see colleagues have answered. There's just 1 or 2. Let me look, give you maybe 1 or 2.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay. Okay, the first one, yeah, they're just typing so far. Does online supervision include mentoring teachers, students, and supervisors, or just learners? And then one more. The choice of online supervision, is that discussed with the supervisor? You can take those 2, Dr. Lees. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll deal with the second question first. The choice of supervision, whether it's face-to-face or online, yes, please discuss that with your supervisor. So we do acknowledge that sometimes a student is in an area where there is just no network. So even if the student has got data, there may not be any network. And that is going to place a challenge for online supervision. But it is then the responsibility of both the supervisor and the student to come to some kind of arrangement. So the communication is very important with the supervisor in this regard. I might need a bit more clarity on the first question. The question was around mentoring teachers, supervisors, and learners. Can you just restate that question for me?
Okay, let me go back to the question. Just looking for a question.
I'll take a stab at it in the meantime, because I can see there were a lot of questions. If I interpret the question correctly, do you have the mentoring teacher, the supervisor, and the learners in the same session? The answer is yes. What we are trying to emulate is what happens in a face-to-face supervision. So in a face-to-face class, there's going to be the learners that are there for the lesson, going to be there, and normally the supervisor would be there in a face-to-face context. However, in the case of online supervision, the online supervisor will be present virtually through the gadget at the back of the class. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Liz, for sharing and giving us information on online supervision. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And next, thank you. Next, I'm going to hand over to our next speaker, who is Professor Miran, and she's going to focus on teaching practice module overview. Professor Miran, if you're here, the floor is yours. Yes, we can hear you. Over to you. Yes, we can see your screen. Over to you. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm just trying to get the slideshow, but it doesn't seem to be working here. Okay. There's it. All right. Thank you very much for the introduction. I am Professor Safura Miran from the Department of Curriculum and Instructional Studies, and I teach the module TPS 3704. So on behalf of the Department of Curriculum and Instructional Studies, I am going to do an overview, which means an overview, not enough information, but you will get more information as we go on. I'm going to discuss the Bachelor of Education Intermediate Phase Teaching Practice modules, the Bachelor of Education Senior Phase and FET modules, and the PGCE, SP, and FET modules. So when I say overview, remember you have tutorial letters that you should read very carefully to get information. You have access to your lecturers via emails and via the My UNISA sites where you can message the lecturer. And I promise you, my colleagues will answer you all the time. I see many of you are asking lots of questions in the chats. Please also note that we are always available via email. So you can email us at any time, okay? So let me just go through the orientation of the modules and what all modules are similar in. So each module, teaching practice module, is a 12-credit module, okay? And for every module, you are supposed to do 5 weeks / 25 days per module. Believe me, if you got let's say you're doing the program B.Ed intermediate phase, and there's 4 teaching practice modules there. You are supposed to be doing 25 days per module, which adds to 100 days. And if you do not have that 100 days, you will not meet the requirements of that degree, and you will not get accredited, or you will not pass that degree, okay? So make sure that you comply with this 5 weeks per module. And we're always getting students coming to us and asking us 5 weeks, and can I do this or shorten this? No, that 5 weeks, and I saw that my colleagues were reiterating it all the time, Mrs. Naidu, Dr. Lees, 5 weeks of teaching practice in which you make sure that those 5 weeks of teaching practice does not include public holidays and weekends. All right? And please, when you're choosing those 5 weeks, look for weeks that do not include exams, because you are not going to be observing and teaching during those times. So during this period, you are expected to observe your mentor teacher, and you're also supposed to teach the required subjects. But I will go through each of the modules and give you the requirements so you know which ones you observe and teach, which ones you just observe for, okay? Very importantly, for you now to go to school, all placements, even if you're going in May or June, but all placements must be done before the 31st of March. Please, we are not having those DSAR forms anymore. It is done via an online placement. We've got many emails that come to and ask us, DSAR form, can I use this form? I can't manage online placement. We have given you enough information, and we also refer you to our teaching practice personnel who really assist us. So you actually don't have much to complain about with placement, because we will assist you till you get placed, okay? Don't forget to download your tutorial letters 101, 102, and 103 from the prescribed study material tool on my UNISA. Very important, read them carefully, okay? So, all right, let me start with the B.Ed intermediate phase teaching practice modules, okay? So we have TPN 2601, right? This is your first year module, and this is at NQF level 5. The module lecturer is Professor T. Mohashwa. Please, I will show you their pictures just now. Get to know your lecturer, email them, talk to them. There are discussion forums, there's announcements, engage with your lecturers, engage with students, and do the best that you can in teaching practice, please. TPN 260, oh, by the way, TPN 260, I'll go back to TPN 2601 later to give you more information about the module itself. TPN 2602 is a second year module, and Mrs. K. Naidu is the teaching practice module lecturer for this one. TPN 3703 is at NQF level 7, a third year module. Professor Nkonyane is the module lecturer, and then the exit level module, which is TPN 3704, is run by Professor Maja. Okay. Now, here are your module lecturers. This is Prof. Mohashwa. I will share the slides with the teaching practice office who will make this all available to you, where you will find the phone numbers, and anyway, everything is in your tutorial letters. Everything is on your My UNISA sites. So if you require more information, these slides will also be shared with you. All right, so the phone numbers, the email addresses are all here, okay? TPN 2601 and TPN 2602. So I'm looking at the first year and second year modules. I'll give you just some basic requirements that you have to do for this one. TPN 2601, very important. And I saw Dr. Makati has answered that. But you are only required to observe. Right? So you need to reflect on your experiences and observations, but you are not expected to teach, you are expected to observe, Okay, and then it's a whole school experience. While you are there, you observe, you see what's happening, what happens in the school, what do they do in terms of marking the register and so forth, ground duty. So your function is to observe. Because when you go into second year, and that is for TPN 2602, then you will start getting into teaching. Right? But you work on like a co-teaching, a team teaching way, where you teach with your mentor teacher, and you will also observe your mentor teacher, right? So now you're actually progressing to independent teaching, and you focus on one of the two chosen school subjects, mathematics, natural sciences, social sciences, and life skills for the intermediate phase teaching practice modules. Okay? For the third and fourth year modules, the third year module is TPN 3703, and again, you focus on one of your subjects methodologies, which is mathematics, natural sciences, social sciences, and life skills. And again, you're getting the whole teaching practice experience. Now you are actually in the classroom, you are doing independent teaching, and you are also observing, okay? And for the exit level module, TPN 3704, again, you become acquainted with more independent teaching, some observations, language is compulsory here in your home and first additional, and 2 of your subject specializations, okay? So please make sure that you listen to the tutorial. When I say listen, you need to read and understand. And if you don't understand anything, contact the module lecturers for more information on what to do, okay? Now we go on to the Bachelor of Education, Senior Phase and FET Phase. Again, there's 4 teaching practice modules. For the first year, as I repeated, for the intermediate phase, you only do observations in the senior phase and in the FET phase. But here, I'm going to go a little bit into where you need to go. So for Dr. Mokati's module, all right, you only observe in the senior phase and FET phase at schools. Please, not TVET colleges, because TVET colleges, they only do FET phase subjects, right? It ends at grade 9, okay? Only when learners pass grade 9 can they proceed to a TVET college. So there's no senior phase there. Okay, so if you want to observe SP and FET and in one school only, that's what your placement should look like, then it should be at a school that offers SP and FET, right? And SP is grade 5 to, I'm saying standard 5, that is grade 7 to 9, and FET is grade 10 to 12, okay? The second year is run by Dr. Malachi. All right. And here again, just like the intermediate phase, you will do observations and co-teaching, but in the senior phase. All right. And it will be done at schools that offer senior phase grade 7 to 9. Sometimes you will want to do it only in grade 7. You are allowed to go to a primary school that has grade 7. Okay. But you are not allowed to teach any other subjects or any other grade, that does not is like grade 4 in the intermediate phase and so forth. It must be grade 7, okay, in the primary school. And yes, in your subject specialization, of course. The third year module is TPS 3703 and run by Mr. Khabashe. And here you're going to do you'll have 2 FET specializations, okay? So the first FET specializations will be done in TPS, or specialization, will be done in TPS 3703. And you can also do it at a TVET college, levels 2 to 4. However, the TVET college, it must be the same subject and it must be run using the CAPS curriculum. Be very, very careful. So you can't just go to a TVET college because you want to go teach there. It must be CAPS reliant, and it must in your subject specializations, okay? I've got students, I teach TPS 3704. It's an exit level module. And if you do the subject specialization in TPS 3704, it must be different from the one you did in TPS 3703, okay? And very importantly, we are getting students who will come to us and still tell us, you know what, I'm teaching at a primary school. May I please do my teaching practice in the primary school? Please, students, this is grade 10 to 12. And the module, the qualification is B.Ed, SP, and FET phase. You will not pass. We will not mark your portfolio. You will not meet the requirements. If you insist on doing what you want to, it will come to me, but I will not be able to mark it. I'm sorry. You have to follow the requirements of the qualification. It is D.Ed approved. If you don't, you will not meet the requirements for the degree. Okay? Then to meet your B.Ed, SP, and FET lecturers, Dr. Mukati is our TPS 2601 lecturer, Dr. Malachi, TPS 2602, Mr. Khabashe, TPS 3703, and Prof. Miran, TPS 3704. Everything, if you go to our My UNISA site, you'll get all our information there. But I just wanted you to recognize your lecturers. So let's go further into TPS 2601 and TPS 2602. This is the first and second year B.Ed, SP, and FET qualification modules. And again, I made a mistake. This is supposed to be TPS 2601, right? And this one is supposed to be TPS. So sorry about that, the mistake, because yes, teaching practice lecturers, we work very hard to make sure you are answered and all queries are sorted out. So TPS 2601, you are only to observe in the SP and FET phase, not only SP and not only FET, in the SP and FET phase. So sometimes when I told you that you can do it in grade 7, right? That is only for TPS 2602, not for TPS 2601. For TPS 2601, it's SP and FET observations. So it must be done in a secondary school, okay? For TPS 2602, it is co-teaching and observations and sometimes some independent teaching for the senior phase in the subject you are majoring in, okay? TPS 3703 and TPS 3704 in the B.Ed, SP, and FET. TPS 3703, as I spoke to you before, and I'm repeating again so you understand it, is that the first subject specialization in the FET phase. FET means grade 10 to 12. You can also go to a TVET college who offers the same subject specialization, but in levels 2 to 4. There's no level 1, by the way. There's no level 1. Level 1 is actually in the school, okay? So it's level 2 to 4 in the TVET college, all right? There's guidelines for your teaching practice, all right? We offer you many guidelines and what you must look for and how you do it, and the portfolio gives you enough information. For TPS 3704, yes, it's an exit level module, and in the second subject specialization, not the same one that you did for TPS 3703. You'll find that in TPS 3703, you're allowed to observe in both your subject specializations, but your lesson plans must be only in one subject specialization. Okay, so the one for TPS 3704, all the observations and all the lesson plans must only be in your one subject specialization that is different from the one that you did in TPS 3703. Okay, let's look at the tutorial letters now, okay? This is some general information, okay? So the tutorial letters contain the lecturer's contact details. They have general university details and functionings, like the library links they provide you with. We even have glossaries in different languages that you can use. We have assessment information. We may not have the assessment there. Assessment will be on the module site, but the information and the dates will be given to you in your tutorial letter 101. Tutorial letter 102 is from the teaching practice office, and it will give you students online placement requirements, how to do it, attendance register details. It will tell you who you should contact, which province you need to contact that particular person from, the role of the mentors and the school principals, how you should go to school, what you should do, the protocols, the professionalism that you need to know. Please read very, very carefully. All right. Professionalism is very, very important. This morning I saw one of our colleagues actually saying, please turn off that camera because there's some, we actually seeing videos of some of you you were that we didn't want to see. You were inappropriately dressed. But I understand that you may have not known how to use the video function. But in schools, when you go there, please dress very professionally. If you want the learners in the school, okay, be neat, be professional. If you want the learners in the school to respect you, because discipline is very, very important, the way you dress is very, very important. It's essential to dress very neatly and very conservatively, okay? Tutorial letter 103 is a portfolio. It must be completed during the teaching practice period and submitted at least a week after your teaching practice, okay? Please make sure that you'll find that in the portfolio, we have the attendance register. So you keep it safely. You submit one to the teaching practice office, and you also have one in your tutorial letter 103, okay? So let me look now at the assessments. You have assessment 1 and 2 and assessment 50. Assessment 50 is your portfolio. It's your summative assessment. Assignment 1 and 2 are your formative assessments. You cannot do assessment 50 without having done your assessment 1 and 2, which is your formative assessment. Please make note of that. Your formative assessment is 20% of the total mark, okay? And your portfolio is 80% of the total mark, right? So it's very important that you do tutorial letter. Why I'm saying tutorial letter 101, because the assessment information used to be in tutorial letter 101, but it is also on your module site, and it is under assessment 1 and under assessment 2. Make sure you complete that. Lecturers generally have one written assignment and one quiz. The quiz is marked online. The written assignment is marked by our dedicated colleagues and markers, okay? The portfolio is regarded as the examination. As I told you, it is a summative assessment. It's 80% of the mark. Of course, if you do not submit your portfolio, you will fail. I must also stress assessment 1, if it's a written assessment, is where we want a confirmation of placement letter. And that is 20% of the mark, all right? So if you don't attach the confirmation letter, you lose 20% of the mark of that assignment, but also it raises red flags. Did you go for teaching practice? And then we're going to do an investigation. If you did not go for teaching practice and you are you did not confirm your placement by that date, and then we think you're not going to go for your teaching practice, we're going to investigate further. So remember what I told you, by the 31st of March, all online placements must be completed. You will get the confirmation of placements as we're going on, and even during April and maybe early May, but those confirmation of placements form, and you'll see it's addressed from the teaching practice office, must be attached to assessment 1. Okay, so remember, it's very important that you put that in there. For exit level modules, now I'm talking about TPN 3704, I'm talking about TPS 3704, I'm talking about the PGCE modules, which is TPS 3705 and TPS 3706. These are all exit level modules. The external supervisor's report must be attached to the portfolio. If it's not, you will lose 30% of the mark and you can very well fail. All right. So now can you see how important that every one of you has to be visited by an external supervisor? If you are not, it's very important that you email and put pressure on me as a lecturer, or on Prof. Maja as a TPN 3704 lecturer, or Mrs. Mapumulu, who's a TPS 3705 lecturer, or Dr. Akabo, who's the TPS 3706 lecturer. I haven't received my supervisor's details. What can I do? So we'll refer you to the teaching practice office to see what is happening. Make sure that you have an external supervisor that visits you, because you will lose so much. 30% of your mark is a lot of mark. You will or can definitely fail, and you may fail if you did very well for the other parts. But again, we'll be questioning you. We'll be checking why were you not visited by an external supervisor. So we'll make sure that you check on these details. Okay, I'm just going to go quickly now to the PGCE. I think I'm going over my time. So the PGCE, we have two modules, that is TPS 3705 and TPS 3706, right? Remember, the PGCE is for SP and FET. So I'm talking about one module that's done in the senior phase. It's a 12-credit module also, and it's also 5 weeks at a school. So the PGCE is 10 weeks, 5 weeks for senior phase, and 5 weeks for FET phase. And very, very important, not at a TVET college, because you can only go to a TVET college learners can only go to a TVET college only after they completed grade 9. Okay, so there's no level 1. If there's a level 1, it's something else. It's some bridging thing that we don't want. We want your subject specialization. So please, for TPS 3705, no TVET college at all, okay? Then you're going to have your mentor teacher supervising you, and then one external supervisor. In all the modules, you'll have, for TPN 3704 and TPS 3704, there's 4 mentor teachers that will supervise 4 of your well done lesson plans and everything, and 1 by the external supervisor. But I'm stressing for TPS 3706, 3704 and TPN 3704, you have to teach and observe every day. That is essential, because these are exit level modules. So even here as well, although you are teaching those 5 lessons, to be credited by your mentor teacher, and of course 4 by the mentor, 1 by your external supervisor, make sure that you are teaching every day and observing every day at the school. Okay. So for TPS 3706, it's Mrs. Mapumulu, and yes, you want the whole school approach. You're going to learn everything. You're going to take part in extracurricular duties, the administrative duty, even to I'm talking about making worksheets, marking the register. You must know everything about the discipline, the classroom practices. You'll find that also it would happen for TPS 3704 and TPN 3704. Everything to the different policies that you have in the school as well is very important. And here you meet Mrs. Mapumulu, okay, who is the TPS 3705 module coordinator. Then we have TPS 3706, which is the second module for PGCE, and it's also a 12-credit module, all right? Please, both modules are compulsory. If you do one and miss the other, you're not going to meet the 10 weeks for PGCE, and you will not meet the requirement of the qualifications, and you will fail. Here, you're allowed to actually even go to TVET colleges, because it's grade 10 to 12 that you have to teach you in. And again, 5 weeks of placement, just like the B.Ed undergrad modules. There's 2 formative assessments and the formative and the summative assessment, which is a portfolio. TPS 3705 also follows the same rule, okay? And yes, sorry, I have not finished that. Yeah, you will be visited by a supervisor, yes. So 4 by the mentor, 1 by the supervisor, but every day you are supposed to be teaching and observing in your FET phase on the subject that you major in. Okay, in the SP phase is senior phase 3705. It will be in the phase that the senior phase from grade 7 to 9 in the subject you're specializing in, and in the FET in the grade 10 to 12 subject specialization that you are doing. So again, the whole school approach is like TPS 3705, but this time from grade 10 to 12. Okay, and we have Dr. Akabo, who is your module lecturer, and all the information and everything else is in your tutorial letters on your module site. Whatever you need, whatever you want to find out more, please email us. We are always available. So Kiali Boha, thank you. Baya Danki.
Thank you so much, Prof. Miran. Thank you very, very much. Let me check on the chat box. I see colleagues are answering for you. Let me check if there's one or two questions that you might take. There's one here. It says for TPN 2602, must we teach mathematics and our major subjects, or must we choose one?
For TPN 2602, you choose one subject.
Okay, and then I'll just give you two more. Tutorial, as I try to speak this, and tutorial 101 have page 23 and 24. Can I submit without the principal's signature? Because the principal said I will get the signature during practical. You can take that one.
Are they talking about tutorial letter 102? Is it placement? 101 doesn't require the signature of the principal. It just wants a declaration that these are the formative assessments. They want the declaration to be signed by the student. But if they're talking about the portfolio, it must have the mentor teacher signature, it must have the principal's signature, and it must have the school stamp. Very, very important. If not, we have to do a whole lot of verification to make sure that you even went to the school. So yes, the principal's signature must be in your tutorial letter 103 or portfolio, please.
103 and the rest. Prof. Miran, I see most of the questions here the colleagues are answering. So I'm just going to let you maybe go through them, and you can also answer on the chat looking at the time. But I'll just give you just one more question then. This one says, as a PGCE students, when am I expecting to start with practicals for all TPS 305 and TPS 306? Just take that one, or you'll prefer to answer everything on the chat?
No, I'll take that. But also I want to remind students that they have access to us. So while we may be answering on the chat, but we have emails and we have message systems on my UNISA. Please feel free to use those systems and email us. If you are not doing that, it means that you are not reading the tutorial letters, and so nothing is bothering you. So please make sure you email us and message us. Yes, so you must do your placement by the 31st of March. It doesn't mean to say you're going to go to school by then, but if you do your placement on 31st of March, you get your placement, you get your confirmation of placement, then you can go to school anytime, until August. I think that's when the portfolio is due. Please make sure that your placements are done before you submit your portfolio. You can't tell me I'm still in school and so forth. No. We're having a lot of issues like that. Make sure you go to school before your portfolio is due. And finish your placement at least a week or two before your portfolio is due. Don't leave everything to the last minute. We advise you that when you start submitting on the very last day, most of the time you are not able to submit because the systems are overloaded. And there's lots of issues at that time. So submit as soon as you do your teaching practice, you submit a week after, and then you won't have any issues. Did I answer Lerato?
You did answer. Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much for all the insightful information. We are we've got so much information that you've given us. Thank you so much from the Teaching Practice Office. And with that said, you can continue answering from the chat box. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand over now to our next presenters. Thank you so much, Prof. Miran. Our next presenter is Dr. Manyaka and Dr. Moshaba. They will also be handling the practical module overview for ECE. Dr. Manyaka, Dr. Moshaba, are you available? Over to you.
Yes, ma'am, we are. I just want to present on a bigger screen.
Thank you so much.
I will first present, and then Dr. Moshaba will take from me going further. Are you able to see my presentation?
Yes, we are able to see. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, students. Now I'm going to talk to B.Ed Foundation Phase Teaching Practice. I just want to introduce the chair of the department is Dr. T.A.L. Pala. I'm doing this on purpose because there are students who are jumping protocol and writing letters to the VC and people up there, which is delaying your query because it will still have to go right down and come back to us. So make sure that if there's an issue that you are not agreeing with the lecturer, which I think shouldn't be, but should it happen, you should write to the head of the department before going any further. I'm going to look at introduction of the primary lecturers for B.Ed Foundation Phase Teaching Practice, look at student support and introduce the module. Then from there, I will allow Dr. Moshaba to take over. These are the primary lecturers. We have a new diploma for birth to 4 ECCE. It's only at level 1, and the lecturer is Miss Mukwena. Then we have another grade R diploma that is focused on the teachers who were not able to complete to do their grade R, but that have been in the field. This is a partnership between UNISA and the department. And for level 1, we have Dr. Maloka. She's doing TPG 1501. And level 2 is Dr. Mayhen. She's doing TPG 2602. And level 3 is Professor Modise. She's doing TPG 2603, which is done for the first time this year. Then we have B.Ed Degree Foundation Phase. Our level 1 lecturer is Dr. Moshaba, is TPG 2601. And then level 2 is Prof. Groch, TPF 2602. And level 3 is Professor Ndo, is TPF 3703. The final exit module is level 4, TPF 3703, which is myself, Dr. Manyaka. Let's just talk a little bit. I know this has been emphasized, but I still want to emphasize this. You need to be very clear as to where you get your support. You have your teaching practice office, which has got, which we had very detailed presentation from Ms. Bukwe and Mr. Masangu about the processes. We are getting a lot of emails where you are asking, I can get into the league, I can find a school. Please make sure that you contact the right people so that you don't waste your own time. Our advice is always to say immediately after registration, get ready to fill in the teaching, your school visit, to make sure that you had them in time and you are ready to go to the schools. Then you have your TP module coordinators. Here we are talking about the coordinators that are your primary lecturers. That's where you ask, content-related questions. Some of you, when you fail, then you write to the whole teaching practice office and ask them, where did I go wrong? Please familiarize yourself with your module. At school, you've got a mentor teacher. They've already spoken about the mentor teacher, and there's a UNISA supervisor. Remember, they spoke about face-to-face supervision and online. These are your lecturers and the contracted external supervisors that you will be in contact with. You have the level 4 students. Do not wait to be contacted. As long as you know you're already going to school and in a week nobody has contacted you, take that responsibility. You are now going to be a teacher. You mustn't sit and say, I'm waiting to be contacted. Otherwise, you lose that 30% of your portfolio. Remember that teaching practice is part of initial teacher education. And it's a culmination of what you have studied and that you need to put in practice. That is why it is important for you to do teaching practice. It's a work integrated learning module where you integrate what you have learned theoretically into the practical space. So this is the core of our degree. Without it, we are not offering the correct program. And the purpose is a component of your professional development. And it is the core of our teacher education programs, as I said. Without it, we are not meeting the requirements of the accredited program. And we do our best to make sure your teaching practice is interesting, is rewarding, and successful. You must really look forward to it. And also, I've already spoken this. Due to time, I won't emphasize. I said the purpose is for you to be in a practical school situation. Don't try to shy away from this or take shortcuts, because it means you are not ready to go to the school. It's also an opportunity for you to apply the theoretical knowledge that you got from the theory modules, and it focuses on application of various teaching and learning strategies. That's where, when you are with your supervisor, you get feedback. You must listen attentively and try to capitalize on what you're doing good and to improve the areas that needs improvement. Now, the critical information is that I'm going to be a bit slow here. We don't reduce the 5 weeks per module, the 25 days, meaning that if you are registered for 2 modules, you must make sure that you do 50 days. I heard one of my colleagues saying, if it's 4, it means it's 100 days. It's really not practical. When you think of the holidays and the exams, we get a lot of emails where people say, can I do them concurrently, level 3 and 4? It's not possible. If you do that, we are just going to take one of the lower level. If it's TPF 2601 and 2602, we'll just recognize one and you'll have to re-register the second one. And we are also saying, without scaring you, to say that the university does respect its integrity. As such, there are disciplinary measures in place. If you are found to plagiarize other students' work or photos, or just going online and taking the resources that you have not used in class and pasting them on your portfolio, this is regarded as fraud. And if you forge teaching practice in any other way, just know that you will face disciplinary action and also be suspended from any further studies at UNISA. And I'm sure you realize, looking at the number of students that are we are just talking about teaching practice modules here. But look at the number of modules that are in CSI. Look at the modules that are in ECED. If you are caught having, and you have to go through the disciplinary action, it might take longer. Just to start there. It might take longer for you to come and present yourself to the committee, and then even longer for you to be able to re-register the module. So just to save yourself, avoid anything that you know is not upholding the integrity of your university. And at the end of the year, or at the end of the day, we want this program to be functional and not to be withdrawn, its accreditation to be withdrawn, because you'll be nullifying all the degrees that have been registered within the university. I think I'm going to take this time and allow Dr. Mushaba to take it from here. I take it she will do her own sharing. Thank you. Dr. Mushaba, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Manyaka. Let me share, colleagues. Sorry, from current. It's on another. I have two screens. Colleagues, can you see here?
We can see, Doctor. You can go ahead. Thank you.
Is it the correct slides, Dr. Manyaka? Hello, colleagues.
But
we are here.
Hear me?
And if it's a problem about placement, just go back to the thing and send to the right people.
Dr. Manyaka? Okay. The slide about TP assessments for all modules, is it the one that is projecting?
Yes, it's the one that's projecting.
It is. Okay, yes. Thank you, colleagues. As Dr. Manyaka has already introduced me, I'm Dr. Mushaba from the Department of Early Childhood Education. I'm going to take over and continue with the assessment and tutorial letter. Dr. Manyaka was handling the administrative issues. So now, students and colleagues, in foundation phase, in fact, let me say in all our teaching practice modules, we have tutorial letter 101. Our colleagues, Professor Miran has already explained about tutorial letter 101, that it has general module information is very much important. Before you do anything, you check with your tutorial letter 101. Tutorial letter 102, I'll go through it. We also have tutorial letter assessment 1, assessment 2 and assessment 3. In my next slide, I'll be explaining these tutorial letters just in brief. Tutorial letter 101, as you can see, and I've already indicated, is about general information of the module. Then the tutorial letter 102. Tutorial letter 102, students, is very important that you must also read the tutorial letter before you start doing any placements, before you start searching for the schools. Tutorial letter 102 is the guide on how to do your placements. So this information is about the tutorial letter is about the placement information and the forms you need to complete. It also provides you with guidance regarding placement forms. It says you've already have a presentation about says all about the tutorial letter 101, also have that information, and all other TP administrative matters where you will find the information about the teaching practice provincial coordinators. I'm emphasizing the provincial word, because now students, as my former colleagues have already indicated, that students always, they come to the lecturer when they experience frustrations regarding the placement. So now, on page 4 of tutorial letter 102, there's a list with the names of provincial coordinators. You check, students, where your province is, then you liaise with the person that is assigned to assist in your present. Do not contact the lecturers. Lecturers cannot assist you with regards to your frustration of applying for schools and whatever information regarding the placement. Please just have that page in tutorial letter 104 and communicate with your provincial coordinator. And then we go to assessment. Assessment 1. Assessment 1 is very much important because without assessment 1, you will not be admitted for exams. You will, even if you go to the school and do your teaching practice without assessment 1 submission, you will not qualify. Automatically, it's a fail. Besides that, it contributes for 10% towards your year mark. Now here, we'll find that when students have not maybe passed the module, they come back to us and say, I don't understand why I have failed this module, because in my assessment 1, I've obtained 100%. Students, 100%, out of that 100% of assessment 1, you will only get 10%. It doesn't mean that when you get 100% from assessment 1, already you have passed teaching practice. So now only 10% from assessment 1 and another 10% from assessment 2, which is 20%. They contribute to your year mark. Then the portfolio in our department, which is ECD, we have 2 portfolios. Then you must check with your module whether it's 2 as portfolios or 1 portfolios. But both portfolios, they contribute 80%. So now for assessment 2, let me go back to assessment 2. Assessment 2, as I've indicated before, it contributes 10% towards your year mark. And in our assessment 2, only, sorry, I forgot, let me just go back to assessment 1 and indicate that assessment 1 is a form you have to submit. Sorry, going back to assessment 1 for that, colleagues and students. In assessment 1, you have to submit a form. The form that you obtain from the school principal with the form that you take to the school, the principal put a stamp and the signature. That form, together with a confirmation letter that you will have received from the teaching practice office, you convert them into one PDF document. Then you submit as assessment 1. Just as simple as that. Only 2 forms. But these 2 forms, you do not have to take them for granted, because if you don't submit them, automatically you have failed the module, particularly before the due date. Make sure that you submit these simple forms before the due date, and then you qualify for exam admission. Now, going back to assessment 2. In assessment 2, you will have to submit the following documents. A principal report. Let me just indicate that this assessment 2, you will only have to submit it after you have conducted your teaching practice, not before, because it's only assessment 1 that you submit now, somewhere in April. I'm not sure. You must check the due date for your modules. Some is May, April, but right now, I'm sure you are busy. Make sure that you submit assessment 1. But then, coming to assessment 2, you will submit later after you have conducted your teaching practice. You cannot submit assessment 2 before doing your teaching practice. So why? Because assessment 2 has the following documents. The principal report, the mentor report. During your teaching practice, your mentor will assess you and complete the forms. The report is in the tutorial letter 101. I think all the documents or information about the assessment 2 are in the back of your tutorial letter 101. So now the mentor report must be signed by the mentor, and there must be a school stamp. Then the attendance register. Hence, I said you have to submit this assessment after. you've done your teaching practice. Then during your teaching practice, every day you will be completing the attendance register. Then this attendance register must be signed by the principal, mentor, teacher. Then there must be a school stamp and a date on the attendance register. Then it forms part of assessment 2. Then there must be a proof of placement or confirmation letter that you have received during when you apply for placement, the one that you get from my live email address. Then for the supervision report is only applied for level 4 students. This is where the supervisor will come and visit the student and give that report to the student. So level 1, 2, 3, you don't have to worry about the supervisor report. You only submit 4 documents for assessment 2. Then the 4th level students, they submit 5 documents. Then we go to our portfolio, which is assessment 3 and assessment 4. As I've indicated that we have 2 portfolios for ECD. In other department, it might be 1. I don't know, but check and check with your study material. Then for assessment 3 and 4, these are summative portfolios. This is your exam. You don't sit for exam for teaching practice. You submit portfolios that you complete during your teaching practice. So now the assessments, I've indicated before that they contribute 80%. One assessment, because now I'm talking about 2 portfolios, each contributes 40% towards your final mark. And these portfolios are standalone portfolios. By this, I mean that each portfolio, you make sure that you attach the attendance register. Don't assume that if I've attached my attendance register in my portfolio assessment 3, automatically that we will pick it up that you have. Let me explain it like this. We have 2 assessments, 40 and 3 and 4. So put the registers in 3, put the register in 4. Don't put in 1 and think that we will pick it up, that your register is in another portfolio. So both, I'm emphasizing that. Put the register in both assessment. You can use 1 register that you've been completing during your teaching practice, then make copies of that register and attach it to your assessment 50, assessment 3, sorry, student, assessment 3, assessment 4, and assessment 2. Remember, in assessment, we said you also attach a attendance register. So all these 3 assessments, they must have a register. Without a register, we are not going to mark that assignment. Irrespective of you've attached this register in one of your assignments, the one that does not have the register is not going to be marked. And then what important information to note is that I've already indicated each assessment to attach the register. The register should be authentic, meaning that it must have an authentic signature, no cut and paste. Even if you are going to make copies of the register, but you don't have to cut and paste the school stamp. You don't have to cut and paste the signatures. And then it must also have the complete dates. They must have a day, a month, and a year. I'm saying this because we've came across with assessments that do not have it's just a 2024. Maybe from the principal signature or the mentor teacher signature is the stamp and 2024, or is the stamp and date, let me say 11 March, that's it. When we must indicate the year, the day, and the month. Okay. Non-adherence to this is an immediate fail. All right, now we come to critical administration information. I'm going to read this. Student, you must ensure that my live email is active. Use your My Life email when communicating with us. And we also important because we send communication with students through our My Life email. So you will miss the important information if your My Life email is not activated. And then materials only accessible online. Do not wait for dispatch posting or claim to have contacted them since the beginning of the year. Don't wait, go to online, go to official study material and download the material and start working with your material. All submission should be online, no hard copies. Not online, we don't mean that you should email to the lecturer. No, you must submit through the assessment submission portal. You don't email any assessment to the lecturer. Even if when you miss the due date, please don't email. The lecturer do not have your credentials. So how is the lecturer going to make sure that your assignment is appearing on the assessment portal? Then adhere to due dates. Yes, if you fail to submit by the due date, just forget it. You've already failed. No special exceptions or special treatment. The will work integrated learning has no supplement or aggregate. For this module teaching practice, you don't have supplement. You don't have aggregate. You only submit once. In January, there's no supplement. And then resubmission only possible before commencement of marking is obvious. If you need to resubmit, please make sure that you submit way before the due date so that you can have allowance and be able to check if something is not right with your assessment. Then you do. Sometimes you find that you submitted the wrong assessment, then you can replace the assessment. But then after the due date, there's nothing that a lecturer can assist. Hence, it's important for you to make sure that you target a submission before due dates. Just make a week before the due date. Make sure that all your assessments are submitted. Don't wait for the last minute because you will be disappointed. Find that the system is not accepting your assessment because of too much volume of the students who are submitting at the same time. And then you find that you miss the deadline. So make sure that a week before, if not a week, just 2 days, 3 days before the due date. Don't target for the last day. And also check on the time that when is your, the due date also has the time that you should have been submitted by a certain time. If it's today, the 4th of March, don't say that I'm going to submit 5 to 12 midnight. You find that the time due was 8 o'clock in the evening. Then when you go after 9, you are unable to submit. Then you come back to the lecturer and say that I can't submit. I tried to submit on the due day, only to find that when you attempt to submit, it was already closed. Then, okay, there is no remarking. As I've indicated before, no remarking, no aggregate, no supplement for portfolios. No email submission. This will be ignored and not marked. We won't even waste our time trying to respond. We will just ignore the email because we've already explained to you that no email submissions. Attendance register should be attached to all documents. I've said before, workbook 50, 51, and assessment 2. It's black here, okay? Hello?
It's back.
We are still there.
You're still there. Okay. Yes. Let me just finish this one. Like the next one. I'm finding it difficult to go to my last presentation. I see a black screen. What do you see on your side, colleagues?
It's still a black screen. You can just go back one slide back and then it's there.
Don't try. Don't do it.
Is that your last one? There it is.
No, there's a last one.
Press again. Then it's giving the blank one.
Don't do a presentation, because if it's not a presentation, we see the last one, just to finish.
Don't get you, Dr. Manyaka. What are you saying?
Don't put it on presentation mode, because when you were, it was just ordinary. We did see the last slide. Yeah,
I did not put it.
There, just go to the, yeah. Don't put it, oh, okay.
It's not selecting, it's not selecting the last one.
No, it means you left it out, maybe by mistake. It's fine.
It's fine. And it's also so small on my side. Dr. Manyaka, are you able to assist with this slide from your side?
Let me see if I haven't closed the last one.
Yes, that's what teamwork is, colleagues and students. You say now.
Let me just quickly go through it so that we finish. This is about frequently asked questions. We'll get questions that, do I have to do all 5 weeks consecutively? We had said I had teaching practice explaining teaching practice office that you can do 10 and 15 weeks on different blocks. We're trying to accommodate you as much as we can. I'm registered for more than one TP module. Can I do the TP visit concurrently, which means that you are saying, can I do TPF 3703 and TPF 3704 at the same time? That is not allowed. You have to have, if it's 2 modules, it means you have 25 days times 2 is 50. And then the other one that we get a lot these days, and I can imagine how frustrated it is for our male teachers to answer this question. I'm pregnant and need to be accommodated. Can I do less days, or can you extend due dates? We included this, I think, in tutorial 102, if I'm not wrong, to say that we do care about your health. If you are on your last trimester and you register in January, you're already putting your health at risk. We would suggest that you rather pack the other module and do, or the same module if it's one, and do it the next year. Now, the other one is I was not well during the submission date, because people wait, students usually wait until the last minute, and they are going to say, I've got a letter from the doctor, I couldn't submit on the last date. All lecturers who spoke on this platform encourage you to do your teaching practice in time. And I'm making a special appeal for those who are repeating. We are able to support you if you do it earlier, and you are able to contact your lecturer and ask, please check if everything is in order, because we don't want you to keep on repeating and committing the same mistake. But if it happens at the last minute, there's nothing we can do. If you get sick on the last day, we gave you from now, from February or beginning of March up to August or September. You should have done it as early as possible, because nobody can preempt what's going to happen in the next few months. So you have been given ample chance, and because you don't have AgroTED, it means you'll have to register, re-register. What is the purpose of purchasing my script if I failed? We get a lot of questions that say, okay, if I purchase my script, then will I rectify? As it has been presented, the portfolios are an exam. So just think of a situation where you are writing an exam. Are you able to write back to your lecturer for the theory module and say, oh, ma'am, I really understood question 2, but when I wrote, I realized that I didn't write it the way I was thinking. Can you give me a chance to write it again, and so that I can pass? The assessment policy doesn't allow that. The same with the portfolios. If you purchase your script, it's for the purpose of you to understand where did I go wrong. And don't come back and argue and say, I know I wrote well, we get messages, others in the Telegram, they're saying they wrote less than I did and they passed. We are not going to accept that. Unless if there's something very serious, like for instance, your submission didn't get through, but ICT can access it, then we can consider that. Otherwise, you are going to re-register even if you have purchased your script. I think this was what Dr. Mshaba was supposed to end with, and this is the end of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mshaba and Dr. Manyaka. Thank you. To our students, I think all the information is available on the chat box, all the teaching practice email addresses for staff members, and all our TPO lecturers have also shared the email addresses. So any more questions from students, please address them to different lecturers and the teaching practice office via email. Thank you so much. With that said, I'm going to hand over to our teaching practice manager, Professor Taule, to do the vote of thanks. Prof. Taule, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Program Director, and thank you for the sterling job that you have done. We managed to finish early, so thank you so much for that. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you again for being with us this day, and to the presenters, I would like to say thank you all for your insightful presentation. We learned a lot, and I believe our teaching practice student have also learned. And I also want to say thank you to all the students who attended this orientation. This was the opportunity, this was the platform for you to come and talk to us, to come and talk to your lecturers, to come and talk to your teaching practice staff members, so that you understand the processes. We realize that students will just write emails to whoever they have access to their emails, and that does not help. That is why we're saying, here are the channels, here is the way to communicate with your lecturers, and which information do you need to communicate with your teaching practice staff members, and that will minimize confusions and delays. So make sure that you have the correct email and you know who to talk to regarding what. I think that information has been clarified, and we now understand where to go. So thank you so much for attending this seminar. As I indicated, it was a way of saying, let's come and sit together and talk about our issues. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day. And in my opening statement, I indicated that as you go out to go your teaching practice, make sure that you use that, embrace every day that you at a school, and embrace every opportunity to learn and grow and make a positive impact. So please, as UNISA teaching practice students, make us proud, make UNISA name proud, because you are there as our ambassador. So we expect you to behave as Professor Miran has indicated. It's important that you behave professionally, because that would put, if you are not doing that, that would put the UNISA name in disrepute, and I believe we don't need that. So thank you so much for attending this session, and we will continue to answer your questions in the chat. So if there's anything that we didn't, if there are questions that we still have, we will answer those in the chat. Thank you so much, and have a lovely day. Goodbye.
Good night. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.